Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Y'all are brewheads? Yeah, we brewheads. So pour a glass of craft beer, we can do this. Yeah.
What's good, y'all? This is C Certified Brewhead, and welcome to episode 168 of Beer and Other Shit, the podcast Adjunct series. Ladies and gentlemen, we're heading back to my motherland again this evening. So this is a brewery that I'm a huge fan of, and it was one of the first Australian breweries I had on the pod. Back in 2018 was the last time, which is kind of crazy. So I'm super excited to catch up. I really personally enjoy these pods with Aussie breweries. It just keeps me sort of like, because I haven't been back in so long, it's one way to keep kind of connected to the scene. And, anytime I can get my hands on Aussie beers, and I do tonight, which I'm stoked about. And, it's just really cool to see it all change and to hear from people who I just think are great cats and are just doing some fantastic things. And I really want to make sure that BAOS represents for the place where I'm from. And so I'm super excited to get into this pod tonight. So let's get this going. Guys, please welcome Mirek from the Mill Brewery in the building.
Hey, man.
Welcome, brother. Great to see your face, man. Yeah, likewise, dude.
Yeah, good to see you.
Been a hot minute. We were saying off air, we hung out in 2019 when I went there last, and we did the pod in 2018. So it's been a while between beers. I know we've talked a little bit here and there on online, thankfully, but great to see your face, man, and excited to get into some Aussie beer talk tonight, brother.
Yeah, absolutely.
Today
man.
for you.
It's such a long time. It's a lifetime, especially in the in the brewing industry with what's sort of been going on. It's shit. Well,
it's crazy.
That amount of time. It's sort of opened and closed multiple breweries.
But I don't think many have in that time. It's fucking crazy.
That's true. Yeah.
So this evening we have a bunch of really fun beers, and I was telling you off air. So what I've been doing since we spoke, obviously when we used to do it in person, we come to the brewery, we hang out, and I was super excited to drink the Haze that you had that it came up the other day in my Facebook memories because you are such a kind. Yeah, I love it when it comes up, all the photos from the
man,
a
it was
whole
such
bunch.
a great day.
Oh man, it was so fun, and you even just wanted to shout you out again for this. It was so cool. I forgot that you did this. You brewed the Haze specifically to time with our trip as well to make sure it was fresh for that. Dude, it was so cool, and I know it was an interesting time back then, 2018, when it was pretty new to Australia. You were one of the earlier breweries from memory that were really like on top of it and excited about it, right?
Yeah, because it got me real jazzed up too, man. So I really enjoyed, how far they've come to this point in time, and the kind of beer that we're brewing and other breweries are making. It's night and day, man. Like the Hazies back then, and I'm sure you see it over there as well. It's crazy, man. Like the stuff that people are putting out these days is just next level. It's just so good.
It's you're so right. Yeah, it's definitely the same here. It's the same in the States, and I feel like everywhere's kind of caught up. The States obviously were always the benchmark because that's where it started. Yeah. And I feel like anything I've had from Australia since, and and obviously out here in Canada I can speak to, and the stuff here is like, I'd say arguably a lot of the times is better than what's going on in the States, and I imagine it's probably somewhat similar back home.
Yeah, agreed, man. And I guess at the end of the day too, it comes down to that thing where everyone, locally is, anyone would rather go to the bottle shop and buy a locally produced IPA because, you always want that beer to be as fresh as you can get it. And of course there are great places like Carwin who are, air freighting in super fresh beer from the States, and that's always awesome. But like you said, it's how far we've all come now. The locally made hazies are just really top notch, man.
Yeah, I love to hear it. So we're going to be drinking different stuff, and once I bust out my beer, it'll explain why. Do you want to talk about your one first? What you're gonna, because you got a couple of beers today, and I can
talk about mine. I'll just give a quick little. I don't know which one to start with. I've just got a couple in the fridge, luckily. So I'll probably start with this one, a little bit more chill. It's
what is that?
The West Coast Pilsner, Solana. So it's a limited. I think we must have released in Jan.
Okay,
I could be mistaken, but West Coast Pilsner. It's an interesting style. All of a sudden, I don't know. I think we might have seen somebody overseas brewing this kind of style. It's basically, it's a hoppy lager, but hopped to be kind of like a West Coast, so it's got some nice bitterness to it. But yeah, funnily enough, in Australia, we saw this style come about, and we're like, yeah, we'll give that a crack. I reckon that sounds really nice, actually, because obviously everyone is on the crispy boys.
Of course,
everyone loves nice, refreshing lager. But of course, we love our hops too. So it's like, all right, let's just combine the two. And then all of a sudden, just before we released this, I think there was probably 5 or 6 other breweries. They all came out within a couple of weeks of each other, which is kind of interesting. It's not like anybody's, peeking into somebody else's brewery or looking at their, upcoming beers. It's just we've all naturally all decided to brew this particular style.
That's great.
And yeah, like really stoked on this one. I think there's only a couple of cans left, so could be one of the last ones.
Oof. And what hops did you use for that one?
Yeah, let me just double check because I always forget these things. So I think this is one of the first beers that we did some experimenting with dip hopping. It's like a particular hopping style where you sort of...
What's that about?
Yeah, you basically take a bit of wort sort of at the end of the boil and you cool that down, and then you actually add the hops to that at a slightly lower temperature than you would to the usual whirlpool sort of hopping. But that's sort of... I don't know, it's worked really well for us, and we've actually sort of taken that method now and sort of continue to use that for our sort of hoppier styles. But yeah, this particular beer, I think we ended up using Nelson Sauvin.
Let's go.
Of course, that New Zealand hop. And we actually ended up using an experimental hop as well from HPA. So it's HBC 522. So who knows? Maybe it's a winner and we'll see it commercially available sometime soon. Who knows?
Love that. That's fun, man. I don't know if I've ever seen a dry hopped pills with a experimental hop. So that's extra fun.
Yeah,
I love that. And I think it's probably for people who maybe aren't sure, because obviously we're recording this in sort of mid-March, like it's deep Aussie summer over there. So obviously, people have probably had these crispies in the fermenters probably since January. Actually, no, you said it released in January, so they would have had it over Christmas time probably.
Yeah, we got it nice and early, before things started to get really crazy, man. We just had a 40 plus degree weekend just gone, man. It was just nasty.
Yeah, Mum was telling me. Oh, not good. Yeah. I heard you guys had a rough early part of the summer, eh?
Yeah, it was bizarre. Yeah, it was just really, really late. It was just kind of cold and wet. Everyone kept saying it's going to be, hot, dry summer, blah, blah, blah. And then I think it just began last week.
Gotcha.
So I wouldn't be surprised if we've got another 2 months of just, crazy weather. But
jeez, it's been, dude, we had, like, obviously you've been to Canada, we were just talking before. Yesterday was 21 degrees in March. Normally it's like minus 20. I was wearing shorts and a t-shirt and we took the dog for a walk by the lake.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
Fucking insane. Global warming is wild right now. So it sounds
wild.
like we're both copping it. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So that pill sounds amazing. So the beer that I have, and this is what, just so you know, I don't know if I probably told you in DMs, but since we did the pods virtually, I learned over time that it makes more sense to be drinking at least the same, if not the exact same beers from the brewery that you're talking to, or it's just strange. It just doesn't connect. Sure. And I learned that early on because I had a bunch of people on the pod and we weren't drinking the same beers and it was strange. So back in now I don't remember when you gave me this. Do you remember? If it was 20, because this is a 2018 bottle, so would it have been? It probably would have been 2019, is my guess.
I probably gave it to you in 2019 in that second
visit. Okay,
yeah.
So
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah,
that's what makes more sense to me. If it was a 2018 bottle, actually, might as well just show it. The Great Russian Imperial Stout 2018. So this is a nice, beautiful unintentionally aged. So when I came with my cousin Dan, who came to both pods, and I think he's been by a bunch of times. He loves you. He always talks about you. And
I haven't seen him for a long time, man.
I'm going to talk to him. I'm going to tell him, fucking get down. So I had that trip. I had so much beer to bring back. I was staying at my cousin's house that weekend when we came by, and I was like, dude, can you leave this in your like pantry, and next time I come we'll drink it? And then COVID happened, and I was like, I don't know when I'm coming back. And he worked for a company that had their headquarters in Boston, so he used to go to Boston. And then I think it was 2022, he was coming back, and he made a trip to Montreal. Like, he flies up to Montreal, stay with me just for a night, and then whatever. So I was like, if you can squeeze it in, could you bring the bottle, because I don't know if I'm going to get it. And he did. So I was like, hell yeah. And I just hung on to it. I moved pretty shortly after. And then when we were setting up, this is the third, we had Chris from Banks and Derek and Brendo from Bad Shepherd on, because I had their beers. And I was like, fuck, man, this is my chance to talk to Mirek and do it, like catch back up and drink this beer with him on the pod, which is kind of probably going to be interesting for you, because I imagine this beer doesn't exist anymore. Like, it's
No, not at all, man. But you know what's funny? I'd love to tell you that this is unopened, but it's not.
Oh, same one?
But is that the same one,
Yes.
2018?
2018, brother. Look at that.
2018.
There you go,
So I think,
twinsies.
funnily enough, but I feel like I'm outing myself to my friend about this, but I was at a mate's house, and I think just over Christmas, just gone, and a mate pulls this out, and I was just like,
You're like,
where the fuck did you get that? And apparently it was in like another friend's fridge, and he was just saving it,
oh, that's awesome.
but he just cracked it. So he kind of just nicked it from someone
Ooh.
who was saving it for. But it certainly didn't go to waste. It was a special occasion. So we have actually drank that one that you've got. I drank it 3 months ago. For
Okay,
Christmas.
so you've had it pretty
So,
fresh because you've in
Yeah,
comparison. Well,
and it's
fresh.
good, man. It's held up well, honestly, for a nice big barrel aged beer.
Yeah.
Obviously the bottling process, that everything was done by hand and labeled by hand, and it's extremely time consuming process.
Of course.
It's held up, which is awesome. So
That's
I think you'll
amazing.
enjoy it, bro.
Yeah, I'm so stoked for this, man. I'm really
But
glad.
that's a big one.
Yeah.
I hope
Oh, look.
someone's around you can share it with.
No, I'm gonna take this to the face. I have a I have a what I started to do. And do you know what? I'm actually glad I waited because I think back then I didn't have an appreciation for something like this. And what I started doing, I imagine you have all beer fucking nerds like us end up having a cellar. Like you just get stuff, you buy it, you trade it, you just get given stuff, and all of a sudden you've got all this stuff. So I got a space, I got a cellar in this basement now, and now I can see. Before, shit was in a box next to my bed. Like I'm literally like, almost ceiling high boxes next to my damn bed. It was ridiculous. So I could never tell what I had, and then now I'm able to look at it, and I was like, if you're drinking 3, 4, 5, 6 beers in a night, you're not going to have this, right? And I'm like, how am I going to get through like all of these big beers? So I made it, I just call it like Big Beer Wednesday. So every Wednesday I drink, which was last night, I drink Imperial Stout. So I'm used to either the 750s, I'll just drink this, I'll only have this. But if I say I got a 500 or something, I'll have like an intro beer that's like maybe 8 to 10. And then the other one, like all the American stouts are like 13, 14, 15%.
Yeah. They're
So
all huge,
I'm used to it now, but at first I was like, fucking hell. So yeah, I find that this won't be a problem.
yeah, man.
And I've got a bottle stopper in case it does.
10.3. Oh, this is nothing.
10-3. That's nothing.
Child's
And
play.
it's the sound just then popping that off, nice and crispy, like the
Nice.
combination.
Oh, I should have shut my chat. I'll just there you go.
Oh,
Crack
there
mine
you
open as
go.
well.
Let's go, brother. I know we've just been yapping. Oof. So yeah, either way. Sorry, the other point was about this particular beer. I'll get you to talk about it. I'm like, I have a much larger appreciation. Like this is a Russian Imperial Stout in whiskey barrels is like, fuck off. This is exactly what I
Starward
want.
whiskey, I believe, too, right?
Yes, that's exactly right.
Starward whiskey, and we've done a few. I'm pretty sure we stopped doing this particular beer, right? So the Great Russian, I think we did a 2019, and that was the last year we did that particular beer. But we've done plenty of other sort of barrel aged stouts after that, and we've had a really good sort of relationship with Starward, and we've always tended to stick with Starward whiskey barrels.
Are they Aussie?
And they've all been really, really, really great. And you get those barrels, fresh as, man. Like they've all been sort of disgorged like the day before, so they're really, really fresh.
Okay.
But yeah, man.
And Starward's
Tell
an
us what you
Australian distillery?
Yeah, they're in Melbourne. Yep, Port Melbourne.
Okay.
What
So I
bottle
gotta get
number
that
do you
photo.
have?
Oh, yeah, 82 of 130.
Oh, nice. This one's
Oh, I'm
40.
glad you asked. This one's 40. Okay, you got
Yeah.
the early one. I mean, look at that. Nice and dark, wicked
Yeah,
little
look at
head.
that.
I got these little taster glasses so I could spread it out a
Got a
bit.
nice brown head to it, eh?
Yeah, it's perfect. It's sitting really good. And I find that often barrel-aged stuff doesn't... The head... This is an incredibly long time. Like I had barrel-aged stuff last night that wasn't adjuncted and the head disappeared immediately. So
Yeah.
this is, once again, 6 years old. First and foremost. Brother, cheers. Great to see you, man.
Hey, cheers, man.
Get that in you. That's fantastic. It's probably mellowed a lot. Like it's not intense at all.
Yeah. There'd be zero sort of, alcohol sort
Burn.
of hotness at all. And I think that barrel flavor has probably dissipated a little bit too, but I think it'd be quite
Still
rounded.
there. Yeah, super rounded. I imagine, Russian, I guess, one good thing about, Russian Imperial Stouts is that, like, licorice, that super dry licoricey stuff, I've heard gets kind of mellowed in the barrel anyway. Is that, like, fair?
Yeah.
And then time, and then time sort of takes it. But, Yeah, this is great. It doesn't taste 10-3, which is always a fave. This is why it's
Yeah.
dangerous. Do you think, as the brewer, do you think that they improve over time for stuff like this?
I personally love them a little bit older, for sure. Like if I remember right, drinking these when they sort of first came out, you do get that sort of alcohol burn,
Okay.
and they just become so much more mellow, and everything just sort of works together so much nicer. And that's not to say that, and I don't mean that the amount of time that you leave it in the barrel.
Okay.
I mean, sort of after you've done the barrel aging process and once it's packaged. I just love to give it a bit of extra time. Another 6 months on top of that is just perfect. That's how I sort of like them personally. So that's it's the one beer you're sort of looking at in the bottle shop, and you're checking the pack date, and you're hoping it's old. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is the kind of beer I actually want to take home. It's not the same with the IPAs, that's for sure.
Complete opposite. Interesting.
Yeah.
That's always interesting to see everyone's sort of preference. Some people are like, oh, you got to keep them cold. You got to, if it's got adjuncts, try and have it within a few months. And then, people would like say, oh, this specific style ages a lot better.
I'd agree with the adjuncts. You do probably want to be a little bit more careful, to be honest.
Gotcha.
But this beer has just got nothing wacky in it. It's just a lot of different specialty malts. I think it's got sort of
Starward.
7 specialty malts on top of the base malt, which is, some would say overkill, but I don't know. It's a pretty tasty beer.
Hell yeah. No, this is great, man. And once again, like, I don't think I would have appreciated it to the degree I do now if I had have had it back then. So I'm kind of like,
Yeah, for sure.
happy this worked out. The Starward, that's a Melbourne based distillery?
Yeah, I think I don't know the specifics, but I think they did recently sell. I think they might be overseas owned now.
Gotcha.
But they've definitely won, like a distillery of the country, and probably got world awards actually.
Oh no
Probably
shit.
downplaying them. I think they're probably
Yeah.
bigger than what I'm saying, for sure.
Interesting. I the name is familiar, but I just can't place it. I think a lot of the distilleries out there. I used to love what's it called? The gin one that sold. I'm having a blank. The one that
Four
does
Pillars?
4 Pillars. Yeah, we got like tons of. We got like a vertical of like 5 years of the the wine one, the wine gin,
The Shiraz one?
the Shiraz one.
Bloody
Thank you.
Shiraz?
Bloody Shiraz.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got like 2018 through 22. Every time someone comes from Australia, I think there's still one bottle left at Mum's house. I was buying it all the time and then sending it to her. And then when people come, they bring the bottle. But they sold too. I saw recently.
Yeah, they did. Yeah,
Dang.
unfortunately.
I'm not mad though. Cash out.
That just reminded me though. We did another Starward barrel aged stout not long ago. I can't even recall. But the good thing we did with that particular one, I think it was actually that was Disgorged. And we did a really hectic like metal design for the can. And I'm pretty sure we released that one at Gabs last year. So it would have been released around May 23. And the particular barrel that we used, we managed to get a bottle of that actual whiskey that was made from that barrel.
Ooh.
So we could do like a really nice Boilermaker. And it was actually like a tawny port barrel before it became the whiskey. So it had this really awesome backstory to it. And I mean, the 2 bottles that I managed to get of that whiskey just did not last. Like we were just, I don't know, we smashed through it at Gabs and we were drinking it at the bar. It was just such a good combo. And I think that one might have been like 12% off the top of my head. And then just, drinking that alongside the whiskey. It was just incredible.
That's that's really awesome. I don't think I've ever tried that before. Like, was it you're saying it was like a bottle from that exact barrel?
It might have been the year prior. So the year prior's release or the previous one or whatever it was. But yeah, I'm pretty certain that the same barrels were used. And I was like, that's pretty awesome. And when I got them, they were telling me they specifically said these are pretty special barrels. And I said, okay, all right, thanks, man.
Let's go.
And
Dude, that's so cool. This is delicious. Like, I'm really enjoying this. This is gonna. I want to ask you before I go through tasting notes. I've got like a cooler, like an esky behind me. Should I pop it in the esky to keep it a little colder?
I wouldn't, man. Maybe to start with, right? Okay. Then once you're halfway through, like just let it warm up.
Because it'll warm up. I chose a smaller glass on purpose. I've heard everyone seems to have different preferences, and some people have said they'll take the bottle out of the fridge. Like, 30 minutes before they plan to drink it, and
Yeah,
let
for
it
sure.
kind of like chill out. I didn't do that, but it's not too cold, and I do like to see the profile. But if it gets too warm, I feel like it's nice to see the progression,
Yeah, man.
of all
No, I
that.
agree. I just, it'll change over time, man.
Yeah, it's oh, totally. So this is like I'm getting like the nose like tons of chocolate and caramel, which is
Hmm.
caramel is an interesting thing which I really enjoy.
Yeah,
Um,
okay.
Barrel profile is great. The more I'm drinking it, the like it wasn't super intense up front. Where I think if it was like, a month old or whatever, it would be pretty punchy,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
that's pretty interesting to see that kind of pullback, which makes it a lot more drinkable. I guess more like
Yeah,
approachable for people who aren't as
I would
familiar
think
with
so. For
this
sure,
type of
man. If
thing.
somebody's
Yeah,
cracking that for the first time and they're not, not familiar with sort of barrel aged stouts, it's like I said, it's just you get that alcohol sort of hotness, and even
yeah.
the whiskey alone can be really intense.
Mm,
Because this particular beer, we didn't really do any blending, so what came out of the barrels is what made it into the
what we're going.
bottles.
Gotcha.
Where it's like if you have some of the base beer, you can do some blending, and it really just kind of brings it all back. And I guess it sort of eliminates the need for that extra kind of month or two aging.
Gotcha.
So yeah, but yeah, you're right, man. I reckon at this, 5 years, 6 years, I think it's a good amount of time. If anyone's sitting on anything that old, I'd say crack into it now.
Get into it. No, you're right. Like I think it's even more impressive. It speaks to like volumes to your like process because the like I was saying when I cracked it, the was still there as if it was a fresh bottle.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So the oxygen held really well. It's
Yeah,
perfectly
man.
carbonated, not
Yeah,
oxidized at all. Like this is a fantastic experience. And sometimes this shit can be soy sauce. So we
yeah,
do
for
not have
sure.
that right now, man. This is fantastic.
That's good,
And
man. Makes me happy, dude. I really like. That's awesome to see. And you're on the other side of the world, and you're drinking a 2018 beer that I, gave you all those
all that
years
time
ago.
ago. It's fucking cool,
It's cool,
man.
man.
I'm
Love it.
I'm really happy I saved it so we can hang out. This is awesome.
Yeah,
Super
yeah.
stoked for this. So, bro, since it's been so long, like let's catch up
Mm,
on what's been happening since like 20, let's call it 2018 since the people heard from you.
yeah,
So what's been happening? So at the time you were brewing strictly out of the Collingwood brewery.
yeah.
Um,
Correct.
and you would drop in the juice and maybe let's go from there because now it looks like a ton has changed as far as like your branding's changed a
Yeah,
lot,
yep.
new facilities and stuff. Let's talk.
Yeah, man. Geez, where to start? I guess it's
Yeah.
like, yeah. So I guess we caught up 2019, and that was the time before everything kind of went to shit, and we all know about
Mhm.
that.
Oh, we do.
But I guess one of the a couple of the positive things that we took away from that time was we were still brewing out of Collingwood, but we bought a little canning machine because I'm sure during that period everyone had to do the old pivoting, and we didn't really have the ability to do any canning. And
Right.
if we can't sell any beer wholesale or we can't sell anything to take away, then we're kind of just dead in the water because the
Gotcha.
bars are closed. Like, what are you supposed to do? So yeah, luckily we had some sort of had some mobile canning guys come through, and we also bought a little canning machine for ourselves, and that really kind of just kept that momentum going for us. And this would have been in 2020, and then once things kind of got back to normal more or less in 2021, we were just kind of just that steady growth that we'd sort of always planned for was still on a nice trajectory. We were still kind of growing, and the demand for our beers was still out there. We were getting more and more requests from bottle shops, and more people during those COVID times. More and more people actually got to try our product, and just the brand presence grew throughout that period, which is kind of it was a bit of a surprise to us.
Nice.
When previously we just had just the tap room, and that's really if you weren't in Melbourne, it's like you wouldn't know who we were. So in 2021, a brew house came up for sale in Melbourne, and we are always talking about, are we going to expand? When would we do it? When would be the right time? And everything just aligned, and we decided to buy this secondhand equipment. We leased another space a little bit further north, up in Thomastown,
Ah,
which is only 30 minutes from Collingwood, which is awesome. So it's
let me
not
see
too
where that
far
is.
out. And then
Right.
then we started a production facility out in Thomastown.
No
So
shit.
I think it's 5 or 6 times our capacity. So at that point, we also did a bit of a brand refresh. And then, we started releasing our first core range of beers. And since then, it's that same kind of just slow and steady growth. We've just got an awesome team. We got a new head brewer to run the facility out at Thomastown. And I think at that point, I kind of officially stepped down from the brew deck.
Huh.
So, and, sort of had to find the time to just run the rest of the business. So it's pretty, that's pretty much it in a nutshell, to be honest, the last few years.
That's awesome, man. Are you okay? I got tons of questions, then. So I'm just looking on the map where it is. I know. Okay, I've never been there, but my cousin Dan were talking about.
It's a pretty unknown suburb, to be fair, but we're just in the middle of an industrial kind of area. But
it's perfect.
It's just close to everything, man. I really think we picked a winning spot. I wasn't really personally. I wasn't when I was looking everywhere. I wasn't I don't want to go here. I don't want to go here. I was just sort of looking at what's available, what we could get. Had to be the perfect size, the perfect space, and then luckily we found a good spot.
It's
not too far from our current spot.
Right, yeah, I'm looking here. You probably just straight up High Street there. It's my cousin's around the Watsonia, Greensboro, Yalambee area. Sure. So I never spent. I'm complete southeast from there where I grew up. So I don't think I've ever been there, but I'm super. I know all these names.
From that area, man, you jump on the Western Ring Road, baby, and you're literally at our back door. Our back roller door opens up onto the Western Ring Road, which is pretty nuts.
What's the Western Ring Road?
Oh, it just it goes from Greensboro, that kind of area, and it goes all the way across the top. It goes through Keilor, and then it can join up with all the, goes to the airport essentially. I don't know. It's just big old road, man. Loud and a lot of crazy shit goes on around there. We've got some interesting neighbors on our street too.
Okay.
But, I won't go into that, but
we can take that off there. Okay,
I'll tell you later.
Tell me later, please do. So, do you have a first question? Do you have a tap room there as well, or it's just production?
No tap room. No just because of where it is, and there was no real plan to really open a tap room at the production site, just because it's I know it's a whole nother beast if you want to sort of go down that route. It's strictly production up there, which is good. Gotcha. And we've just got plenty of space to grow into it, and we're sort of almost at that time now actually where we're looking in for some more equipment. So
that's dope, man. Fuck, look, growth in this crazy time. That's great.
Exactly.
If you ever decided to, because I know you're saying it's industrial, but I would say 70% of breweries are in some sort of industrial zone. It's not weird at all. Could you if you wanted to?
I think I probably could. Yeah, I don't think there's any sort of reason why we couldn't do it.
Right.
Yeah, I just trust. I mean, I've had the thought, but I haven't thought about it in a long time. In the earlier, a year to 18 months ago, I probably had a brief thought. I gave it a thought, but now I just think, mate, there's just enough going on as is. I don't think I could personally do it again.
Yeah,
for a little bit longer.
You're making good points, but it's pretty crazy. It's a lot of work, I imagine. Running all of that. It's a hospitality.
There's a really nice. Yeah, sorry. There's a really nice guy on the street up the road who just works in a mechanics or whatever. He's the one guy who comes and buys takeaways from us every couple of weeks. So he's a good dude.
There you go.
He literally has his own personal brewery for takeaways because no one else comes for that reason. But he's a good dude. So
that's awesome. Good for him.
Yeah.
What a champion. So what would you credit for the growth? Is it the distro? Is it actually getting distribution? Do you think has made you have that need for the extra capacity?
I mean, the distro has just been us ourselves. We've always done our own distribution and deliveries and everything. I think during that COVID period, people just kind of heard about us a bit more and, liked the product that we were making, which is obviously always important, but not the most important thing.
Right.
And obviously with that sort of brand refresh and don't know. And I just think everything we sort of focused on and just keeping the team small and not sort of overextending ourselves and not just bringing on a whole bunch of new people. The team's the biggest that it's been, but there's still literally 13 people who work for the company and that's it.
Right. So it's lean
it's a small team.
Honestly, man, that's better for sure.
Yeah.
I think as we kept our shit lean as well. I just feel like it's you got more people that you can rely on rather than see other people over hiring and then having to let
Yep.
people go. It's kind of fucked up, dude. It's
It's
just
crazy.
it's super crazy, but it's really encouraging to hear. This makes me really happy, man, that you are growing at a time when a lot of others maybe aren't.
Yeah, man.
It's
There's a lot of doom and gloom out there, and it's like I feel for everyone, and everyone's struggling at the moment. It's just a ridiculous time. And that's not to say we're just having the best time, we're killing it. It's just like we've just been, I don't know, we've just gone at it from a different angle, and we've just kept the growth slow. And that's what I've always said from day one. And I guess that's the kind of thing that I can always look back on. I always said, let's just aim for slow and sustainable growth.
the move.
Because as soon as things get away from you, it's just where things, you find yourself in trouble, and you're letting people go, and there's just big problems. If you can't sort of handle whatever gets thrown your way, whether it be like a global pandemic, or fucking all these breweries in voluntary administration, or like, tax debts and all of that kind of stuff. If you can't handle that when things slow down, I don't know. I just think, well, you fucked, aren't you?
Basically. I guess it's never been harder to run a brewery anywhere in the world. It seems like what I've learned now, like from these more recent convos with folks back home, is it's basically the same shit everywhere. I talk to people in the States, same problems out here. It's definitely a rough time, but on the actual, like, we're definitely going to talk more about that stuff. But I'm curious to learn more about like what's maybe changed with the brewery. So I was telling you, I think off air, that I think it was February in 2018 when we did the pod. So it must have been like a few weeks ago in 2018, and it came up in my Facebook memories, all the photos that we did on the pod. So we had like 7 or 8 beers at that day. It was wicked.
Yep.
And it was a whole bunch of different stuff. There was like Crispies and red ales. I think we had the OG of this stout because I checked into it on Untapped. It looked like.
Oh yeah.
So it's
Awesome.
just the 8%er now. This is the barrel aged one.
Yeah. Awesome.
So as far, and I've been like obviously following this on social and seeing the different stuff that you're doing, but do you want to maybe speak to what sort of like direction the beers have gone in? Because I imagine it's probably altered at least a little bit, or maybe something that you focused on that people really like, and flagships and all that type of stuff.
For sure, man. For sure. Yeah. I don't think the direction of the beers have actually changed dramatically at all. I think like
Cool.
I've always been interested in, like American style beers and, the hoppy stuff, but also I love my ambers. I love my lagers. I even said way back in the day, I'd never make a sour, but we have got plenty of sours now, like, a nice fruited sour. Like, I'm not against it anymore.
What changed?
Your taste change over time, right? So
That's fair.
But the kind of stuff that we're making at the moment is very similar to what you would have seen back then.
Okay.
But it's just the consistency and the quality of those beers that we're making now is just on another level.
Okay.
I have not been happier with how the beers are coming out these days. Everything is
Amazing.
just, in my mind, really awesome. I'm not trying to say we're just making these incredible beers. I'm just really, really happy with the product that we're making. The 2 brewers that we have are just really incredible. And we just like to have a bit of a mix. I reckon back then I wouldn't have been surprised if we probably had 9 taps down at the brewery in Collingwood.
That was about
probably
right.
had a nitro tap, 8 or 9 taps, but we've got 14 now. So
Nice.
it gives us a little bit more room for experimenting and just messing about, man. I always like to have a bit of a mix on the board just to kind of, because, the people coming through the brewery these days, it's everyone. It's all types of people. And, some people just want to smash the lagers, and some people are always chasing like a double IPA, and we don't have them as often as we used to. I'll say this, actually. I think the board, we call it, the menu board, definitely lower ABVs these days. Back in the day when you were there, like I would have had, multiple stuff over 8-9%, but just these days, man, like people just want to have a bit more of a session, and they want to be drinking lower ABV beers. So that's kind of the direction that we've taken, I guess. Just lowering the ABV on a lot of our regular core range beers. But I like to, you always got to throw one big boy in there. But
Gotcha.
yeah, other than that, a nice core range that we've got now, which we wouldn't have had back then. We've got just a lager and a pale ale and a session ale, and then we've just got an IPA. So between those 4, actually we do have another one which we've just recently added, which is the first time we've added another beer to the core range lineup, which is Haze.
Okay.
So yeah, so I think we've got 5 core beers at the moment, which is pretty sweet.
5.
That's
Okay.
kind of where we're sitting.
Is that, and there was one, this is the one I was thinking, the Mosaic Pale Ale. I saw that recently.
Yeah, man.
Which looks
Yeah,
fucking
yeah.
awesome.
It's awesome, dude. It's my go-to beer, man. It is absolutely my favorite. And it got picked up at I'm sure you know of, like, you know Vintage Cellars.
Yep.
Do you know about those guys? It's like an offshoot of Liquorland.
Mm-hmm.
So those guys picked it up recently as like best Victorian pale ale. So that kind of got us ranged in a whole bunch of Victorian Vintage Cellar stores, which is really awesome because we're so stoked with that beer, man. Like it's just my go-to pale ale. It's a big, beefy American style pale.
Is it a
Not
haze?
Kind of Aussie fruity. It's no. It's a nice.
No, like a Westy type of thing.
It is, yeah.
Gotcha.
Definitely.
Oh, yeah, hence saying American, so like American IPA, American pale. Understood.
Yeah.
I'm just cruising through your Instagram, looking this and seeing the Solana. Fuck, that's a sexy can.
Yeah, it's good, man.
I really love you, bro. Like you said, you did the rebrand. Love the rebrand, dude. It's so nice.
Thanks, man.
It's so, every time it comes up in my feed, because I saw recently, like I think it was like last week, the Mosaic one. I'm like, yeah, I love the logo, like that sort of like, how do you describe it? It's almost like an old school American.
Yeah, it's a bit kind of old school, a bit gothic as well, like a bit, like a bit old time, original kind of, European brewery as well. Like it's just got a big mix, and like trust me, it's a long process to do this because no matter how long you look at something and then you go, all right, I think this is it. As soon as you've committed, and I'm sure you can understand, you think, oh fuck, maybe I've made a mistake. It's really hard to just. And it took probably a year for it to really sink in, and for me to be like, okay,
I like it.
We've got this out of it, and we can do this with it. It's got to be a bit more versatile rather than just one particular thing.
Look at that head. Sorry, look at that fucking head, mate.
Oh, look at that.
Look at it. This is a 6-year-old beer. Sorry, that's insane. That is crazy. Sorry. I'm loving this, dude.
I'm actually kind of jealous, man.
Well, at the very least, you had it a few months ago, so I'm. I wish I could share it with you, but I also happy to crush this to the face.
That's all right, man. You can enjoy it for yourself.
I'm stoked. So I guess with the rebrand, did it sort of kick in more when you saw like 5-6 beers with similar kind of style? Then you're like, all right, this is us now, the type of thing where you see one.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's like once we see it a part of everything else, and it's almost like, I can kind of show you with these two. It's just like they kind of just work well together now. So these two are,
they look from the same family.
Part of the core. This is a limited, but it just means that when you see one of our limited beers, it just becomes a bit more recognizable. And it was just super important for us. Like before we did the rebrand, it was just a bit of a mishmash of whatever, like we had an old logo and we'd just slap it on a can and, somebody would do a design and like you call it a day. But, we've obviously grown and, we have a bit more of a process these days, and I feel like it works, it's amazing what you can do when you just have a bit more time and a bit more help as well, in that sense.
Man. Yeah, man. Oh, I love to see it. Very cool that you got picked up for distro. I think that's huge. So they picked that up as one of the best new, would you say Australian or Victorian?
Victorian. So it just got like
massive.
Victorian Pale Ale award, and there was a category for each.
Gotcha.
Different breweries won different categories, but yeah, like we sent them off to be judged, and apparently they had a pretty big panel, and I was happy with that.
It's massive,
it's not
man.
the craziest award in the world, but it's not internationally recognized by any means. But for us, we're stoked on that because we're so happy with that product, and it's one of the few beers that is just super repeatable, and nothing gets tweaked.
Right,
like that beer is just what it's going to be.
Gotcha. I like that. That's awesome. It's even better that you're really happy with the beer that's getting recognized. Oh, yeah. It's kind of money. The juice, I can't believe it's not juice from back then. Is that become the haze that you have there? Like this part of the flag?
No. That one got retired a while back for sure, man. Yeah. That was such an early,
I guess it was.
Haze
in my head, it's fucking great though. Like,
hey man, yeah, I think at the time, like I was enjoying it too.
Money, right?
But we hung it up and it's had its time. It was a great beer, but the beer, this particular beer that we have now, it's just a bit more modern. It suits the times a bit more. I think that original juice was just a bit it was pretty OG. It was
It's
just
chasing
not,
that OG haze. That makes sense.
yeah, and it
Yeah.
was, and it sort of did what it needed to do, and we've got a bit more suitable stuff for the times at the moment.
Right now. Gotcha. If you were to say, like, if someone's to say, hey, tell me about the mill, like, what would you say that you, like, could you say you specialize in anything, or you just kind of do everything really well? Like, has that become a thing? Because I'm thinking back to then and looking at those photos the other week, and I'm like, this was everything. To me, it felt like, at the time, speaking to 2018, and I remember coming back in 2019, I don't specifically remember what we had, but I imagine it'll come up in I think that was March 2019, so it'll come up any day now in my fucking memories, Facebook memories. But yeah, so like back, to me, it always felt like you did everything from crispies to like pails to like everything we're talking about, right? And you did them super well. So, in 2024, has that changed? Are you leaning towards a certain direction? Obviously, you said you're doing sours, which I just saw the strawberry yuzu, which looks fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Like, is there anything that you kind of like going in a direction of, or is much of the same but better?
I still think it's the same kind of roots that we were always going for, and that's just kind of like, hoppy American style beers, and that doesn't necessarily mean just IPAs. We still love West Coast Pilsner, or whatever it is. Yeah. We're very open to a lot of different styles, but I think, I think I can say that we do them all well, and I think there are a lot of breweries that are very sort of heavily focused on one particular style, and that's awesome. But I personally always thought keeping it a bit more rounded and open to other things kind of works for us, I guess. I don't think that I would say that we specialize in any one particular style.
Gotcha. I mean, it's probably in this day and age, is that probably from what you think, do you think that's probably the better move? Or is it just more not even about better? It's just more like, hey, this is who we are, this is what we want to do.
Yeah, I just think having a good, consistent lineup of offerings is the best thing you can possibly do. It's like, we've got 14 taps at the brewery, and everything moves. People love to try all sorts of stuff, but you need to have some really sessionable, crushable beers. But if you don't have something really big and somebody comes in, they're like, oh, where are the crazy beers? It's like, you got to, I don't know. I just like to have a bit of something for everyone. It's just It's what keeps the tap room, pumping and keeps bringing people in.
I like that. So then the growth, what would you say is like mostly pushing the growth? Like, is it just demand through the tap room? Because like you said, like before it was the one tap room, it still is in Collingwood, which is a vibe. I think at the time you only had a very few. I can't pitch. Do you have like a to-go fridge back then? I don't know if you did.
Man, probably not. I think we might have done those 1 liter Canimals takeaway.
Okay,
maybe not. Man, maybe
not.
What? That's crazy.
Oh,
man.
Hold up. You mean like crowlers?
Yeah.
Yo, I think that is. I feel like I'm picturing your staff making them.
Yeah, maybe that would have been in that second visit. Maybe not even in the 2018 one.
Yeah, that sounds really familiar now. But I remember I got cans. I think I remember you coming up and you just put them in my bag. The juice. Can't believe it's not juice, because I was like, fuck, that was a weekend. And you're like, I was like, yes, I was fucking amped for that. But it felt like it was one thing you had to know that you had it and order it from behind the counter. I don't recall there being like a big
it was a bit like that. Yeah,
it
wasn't as straight up obvious that like, oh, we can do takeaways. And that's, that's crazy to think now. Like back then we didn't have takeaway cans and all that kind of thing. It just seems crazy. Like it was a different time, man, back then. Like I think you'd be absolutely crazy to try to start a brewery the way that we did back then. But I feel like we got lucky in that timeline that we did it. It was just, I feel like we were one of those last year, so we started in 2017.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it got progressively harder after that period, so many more breweries is opening and, all the time.
Yeah.
But I think, on the sort of takeaway thing and, so on your question, sorry about like,
I
fueled that growth? Like,
yes.
I think it's been a lot, man. It's been just more of our beers getting into more people's hands, and it's just been like the brand itself growing and getting more recognition, outside of the little suburb of Collingwood,
Right.
where the tap room is. I think it's like, we've done a little bit of interstate stuff, and it's been really well received. And me being from Tasmania originally, I've got some really nice connections down there, so I've done a couple of trips down there, and people have been really, really, really loving our products down there.
Amazing.
And we've done something recently with Sydney. We did a collab with a wine label, actually, Doom Juice, and that got us into Sydney for a little bit. And we've done a little bit of stuff in Adelaide. But at the end of the day, like we only really just want to focus on that hyper local thing. It's just it's the way to go. It's so expensive to get stuff interstate, and it's a great exercise, and it's an awesome way to have people in other states get your beer and get your brand out there. But I think like you've just got to be so much bigger to maintain that and do it continuously. I think we just like to focus on Victoria, and Tassie's close enough that it's not a big deal to get down there.
Right. Yeah, it is. Fuck, I never went. I always saw you talk about it, because I remember you telling me this back in the I've seen like you went on a bunch of trips over the last few years. I'm like, man, I really fucked up not going down there.
Yeah.
Next
That's
time.
right. You go on plenty of trips, man, up in where you're at. So
exactly. Well, sometimes you want to go check out. Traveling in Australia, living in Australia, it was never fun. It's just like I've probably been to more places in Canada than Canadians. Same thing. Like anyone who's not from Australia has been to so many more places than I have.
For sure.
At home. So I know how it goes.
Makes sense.
But okay, I really love that, because also for people who don't know about like Collingwood is like a hipster neighborhood, and it wasn't always. It was kind of hood for a bit, which is typical. Hipster, I guess. And
absolutely, man. Yeah.
Next to Fitzroy, which was kind of same deal, but it was popping first. So we used to always go out in Fitzroy, and Collingwood was like one street over, essentially. You wouldn't
go to Collingwood, you wouldn't go to Smith Street. It was
no. You went to the Nike store there.
Nasty, man, a bit dangerous.
It was a little sketch. There was a few bars and stuff, and then over time, before I left in 2010, and it was we were definitely going to Smith Street back then. And when I came back, I was like, I feel like I couldn't believe how dope it is. I think that's maybe. Do you think? I guess it's more of a question than a statement there. But do you think it's more of like that's a part of it, being that you're in, even though you were 2017, that was in the earlier-ish stages of craft kind of really popping in Australia. Like, do you think the location has sort of helped, being that like
massively?
You're right a stone's throw from so many Proud Mary, like
absolutely, man. Yeah,
around the corner and all that stuff.
I look, when I started, I really wanted to be in a good spot. Like, I wasn't particularly interested in making like a destination brewery where it's like you've got to rely on those people coming to you. I wanted to be right in the middle of it, right in the guts, and even picking a pretty shitty street, it was at the time when we moved on to Sackville Street. Like, all the warehouses around me were just real sketchy, man, and like no one would walk down the street. But now, like, man, there's 3 cafes next to us, another one 50 meters up the road, and then that's still on a side street. Like, we're not even talking about the main street being Smith Street. So it's crazy what can happen in the span of 5, 6, 7 years. It's actually our 7th birthday in next Saturday.
Hell yeah! Well, that's good.
Shit, I just realized that. I mean, I know it's happening. We've got a big party happening, and I may have purposely put that poster up on the wall just for promotion. But
there you go. Look at that.
But anyway, look, man, it's just like being in a good spot like that makes such a big difference. And I think at the time, Stomping Ground were the only one in that area. And then after that, now we've got Bodrigi, Abbotsford, Range Tap Room across the road, and then you've got Fixation and Molly Rose around the corner.
Oh yeah,
and it's just. All of a sudden, it's just a bit of a destination area now for all of the breweries, which I think is a pretty cool thing. I wasn't the first, no, second.
No,
but you don't want to be the first, man. Trust me.
You're fucking right, dude. You want to be number 2. I'm the same thing. I'm not getting that first Apple Vision Pro. Fuck that. I'll wait till like version 4. Like, that shit. What are you gonna spend $3.5 or $4,000, whatever it is, US? On some shit that might be whack. You gotta wait, man. Hell no. No, I feel you. So. That is dope, because the area is like, I remember, I think we went to Stomping Ground that night because I had to be like, hey, friends, I'm not here long. meet me, either come to the mill. At this time, I think we went to Stomping Ground afterwards for that walkability, like that was all like in the area, which I remember being like super cool. Yeah, that's super like key as well. And even on top of that, was it called Beer Mash? There was a bar around the corner, like the bottle shop / bar was still there.
Yeah, Beer Mash is super OG. It's been around for a long time.
That's one thing. It's still to this day. I don't know if I creamed over it enough when I saw you last, but it's something that doesn't really exist here, at least in Canada. Like a bottle shop / bar in the exact same space. Legally, there's no chance that's happening.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's taken off here, man. There's so many of them now. Wicked. It's awesome. And generally, they're a fair bit smaller than Beer Mash, and it's just those. And
like
real cute. They pop up in a little neighborhood where there's not much else around, and then they just pop off, and it seems so smart to me. Like
it's genius. Like even if it's like 10 seats or something, like just super small.
That's it, man.
Couple fridges with some just great selections of beer. It was just like
one owner. Maybe another person behind the bar, like just, so they don't burn out. It's just a good way to do it, man. I think they do well.
It's fucking cool. And like just regular bars, even over and above beer, like you Collingwood down there is just popping. I remember just feeling like it felt like kind of like Williamsburg in Brooklyn or something, like where there was this like back to back. They don't do it like that here. Canada's way too not capitalistic enough. Like it's there. I just remember being like, yo, like there's not a space. Maybe now because of COVID, everything's fucked up everywhere on main streets. But it was like back to back to back to back businesses, and like it's just like it felt so cool. I never remembered it being that awesome, and I was like, so all of that,
like real poppin' high streets, like Smith Street, for example, and then you've got Johnston sort of intersecting it, and then just off to the corner is just a really like the actual residential area, the actual suburb of Collingwood, and people who live in Collingwood, and it's just awesome. It's like on their doorstep, they just have so many awesome offerings,
crazy stuff
from
and even
pubs and bars and breweries. Like it's got it all, and it really does. Like having been there 7 years now, it is such a community, and it's just got the most neighborly vibe. I love it. And you're walking down the street, walking home, because I live very, very close. I live in the next suburb over, and it's just you see the same people cruising around. I don't know, and I kind of like that feeling.
It's almost like surprising to hear you say that about an area like Collingwood, which when I say that, not like shade to Collingwood, but like hipster cool areas don't always have the neighborhoody thing, because there's a lot of transplants. Because if someone comes in from out of town, like if I'm going to visit a city, I want to go to the Collingwood of that town every time. That's where I try and stay, or at least spend most of my time. So sometimes it's like out of towners, visitors, whatever. You don't always get that. So that's very cool to hear that. Like that's what's become of
absolutely.
Area.
Yeah, and I think because like when people come from out of town, it is such an inner city suburb. Like it is super, super close to the CBD. Most people kind of just go, we'll go to the CBD.
Seconds. Yeah.
But it is now becoming more of a place where out of towners will actually come and stay in Collingwood.
Good.
To check out the area. Because it's like, no, fuck the city. Like let's just, everything we actually want to see and do is around here now anyway. So it's cool, man. It's really picking up. Like
that's awesome.
The tap room at the moment is just, the busiest that it's been. And I mean that from the sense of just, because of the whole area it's just picked up. It's really awesome to see,
That's fantastic, man. It makes me really happy that people are realizing that. The Melbourne CBD is actually pretty dope. Not all downtowns are like mad cool, but that whole area, I mean, next to like Fitzroy, and I know Carlton's like next one up, I believe. Like there's and then Abbotsford on the other side. Like it's super cool, that whole area. You could spend a week or two there and barely scratch the surface of how much cool stuff there is. The other thing that was the wickedest shit I saw recently was Melbourne overtook Sydney as the biggest city in Australia.
I
don't
get excited when I see those things, because it just like brings more people here, man. It's already
too many people. The traffic's
people, man. Housing's already expensive enough as it is. Like
that's true.
Come on.
It was more just because it felt when you put it like that, you're 100% right. Because fuck
I want
off.
people to come visit, but I don't want people to come and
and stay and
rent go up.
Yeah. It felt like we finally had something on Sydney. It was always like they were bigger, even though Melbourne was always cooler, and everyone knew that. Sydney was always more impressive, but now we've got more people than them. Ha, bitches.
Yeah,
love that.
Bonkers.
It makes me happy. Small things. No, that's so sick, man. That it's really like turned into that, and that the tap room is busier than ever, and that the brand has really sort of grown, because it did feel at the time like a neighborhood brew pub that, like I said, didn't really have to go stuff aside from the crowlers, which was super fun.
Yeah.
But I think there's a bit of a disconnect. A lot of consumers don't know what a crowler is, and it's, they know what a 4-pack is though. So.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very cool that you've been able to do that, get that canning line, get the production facility, and just be pumping out cans. So then when you're pumping everything out from the production facility, where is that being sold mostly?
So, yeah, like we've got I can't tell you the exact number as to, how many stores and stuff are in, but we've got an awesome selection of stores that, sprawls across the state, and
amazing.
A lot of places have our core range beer, and then a lot of places might not necessarily jump on the core because that particular bottle shop really only moves, limited beers.
Gotcha.
And we've kind of pulled back our sort of limited program to like once a month at the moment. There probably was a period maybe a year ago where we were doing like a couple of new beers a month. And we've just sort of found just the sort of state of the economy and what people are spending their money on at the moment. It's probably not super wise to just keep smashing out limiteds, because people are just being a little bit smarter with their money and stuff, and not buying so much booze. So yeah, we're finding sort of one limited a month is a good amount. And yeah, I mean, we're nicely spread. We've got a good sort of distro in the southeast and north, west. It's good, man. Like,
great.
Yeah, hard to say exactly who and where and what,
but it's mostly distro. Distro then through the pub. Gotcha.
Yeah, that's it, man. Yep.
And something you said earlier that I always find interesting to sort of, you mentioned that a lot of the lower ABV stuff is really pumping right now. I always find it interesting, sort of maybe like a holistic view of like, hey, this is what the palate of this area, city, whatever, is saying. So right now in Australia, you're feeling like, it sounds like, and I have heard this from other folks, so it's like, flagships are popping, like you're saying, people are more cautious with money, and they want to maybe be more certain with their purchase as opposed to rolling the dice on some one-off shit that could be fire.
100%.
And
reliability,
and maybe they, being that there's a maybe a value for money part, that they want something that's volume versus a big dog, like versus an 8% double IPA or whatever. They're going to be like, give me a 4% pale or something, and they would rather have 4 of those than one big guy. Is that
agreed.
accurate? Yeah,
100%.
Okay,
very accurate, man. I think people probably might have been burnt one too many times on an inconsistent beer, and you want to try something new, and I think even for me personally, I'm still really, really into craft beer, and I like to try new stuff. But I'm certainly not sort of buying every new thing that comes out these days, because it's it's too risky, man. It's too risky. Well, like you said, I mean, if you're buying from a reputable brewery, like you're going to get something good, sure. Like, not a big deal. But I completely understand why like people aren't so quick to go out and just buy every new thing that comes and hits the shelves these days. Because if you're spending upwards of $20 plus on like a can of something, and it doesn't quite hit the spot, kind of sad. You're like, shit, man. I mean, I could have got a really, really nice 4-pack of something that you love.
So you're saying $20 on one can?
There's probably places that have got more expensive than $20. Like, I mean, we don't charge that much for a single can, but there are breweries out there that charge crazy amounts of money for a can.
Fucking crap. Okay, so this is something that I've been hearing about, and I remembered, bro, the last time in 2019 I went to Carwin. Now, granted, they had like that I think they're Belgian. They're called Tool or whatever. TO space O with the thing.
Yeah, Tool. Yeah.
Okay, so they had like a tap takeover with them. So I was like, all right, meet me at one of the nights. I was trying to do the thing where I didn't have enough time to see people. So I'm like, hey, whoever can come, I'm going to eat the mill here. I'm going to be at Stomping Ground there. I'm going to be at Carwin, whatever. And pints were like $19, and people were, and obviously I'm visiting, seeing people, and everyone's shouting me, right? And they're just like, I'm like, no, it's okay. Like $19 is fucking in. Like, no, it's fine. So like there's the price always kind of bugged me out. So Bad Shepherd got a beer in the LCBO here. LCBO, are you familiar with that? The liquor
I know the
control.
LCBO.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Sure, man. LCBO in the beer store, right?
yes, exactly. So beer stores
Classic.
trash because they're owned by
Yeah.
multinational conglomerates, and LCBO is government owned. And
Yep.
Bad Shepherd got a beer because Derek's from Canada, so he got a beer in the LCBO, and it was
Oh, that's cool. I didn't realize, sorry, that he was from Canada, and that makes sense. I'm like, how the fuck did he do that?
Yes.
And I'm like, okay.
So he explained it in the episode. He had a contact and sort of basically took him a bunch of years. Like he met the guy and then like doing some, I think a beer judging thing, and then met him again and met up with him when he visited here. And he used to be the beer buyer for the LCBO. Then he retired and then was like, well, now I can actually help you do it, because when I was the beer buyer, I couldn't help you because then that's bias. So now I can help you. So we helped him get it in, and they got in like a hazelnut double, like a brown ale thing they got. And it was $3 and change here, like under $4. And then he's like, in Australia, it's like $14 for that same can.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa.
Like, so what's that in Australian dollars though? Like that?
Oh, it's the same.
$4.
Let me see. I think Canadian dollar, last I checked, if I go xe.com and I do one Canadian dollar to Australia, let's see what the fuck that comes to. $1.12. So we're
Shit.
one Canadian dollar is 0.80, like 88 cents.
Yeah.
So
shit.
It's not like it's not like we're the Canadian dollar is like worth a lot more than the Australian dollar.
Yeah.
But point being is that when he told me, I was like, yo, that's fucking crazy. So I always kind of like bug out. Now I know like 50% of it's like the tax, right? Like the excise tax is quite high there.
Yeah, stupidly high. Yeah.
So $20 a can. I remember even back in the day buying a 6-pack of Corona was $19, and it was always like that was the one you were bowling out on if you were getting the 6 of Corona back in the day. When you could get
out on Coronas,
VB or Tooheys Dry or some bullshit.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's pretty normalized. Like there are like what sort of can would be $20 plus? Like a double IPA or like a what I'm drinking now, like a stout?
Yeah, like geez, it could be any limited really, but yeah, generally the sort of slightly higher ABV stuff, and I'm talking about 440ml cans as well.
Jesus.
So I mean, look, I don't see them that often. I just know that they're out there.
Gotcha. What for context? What's like some examples of some of the stuff that you have, just for because I imagine Aussies would be like, yeah, cool, like this is what it is, but for everybody else, it's.
I probably should be more like up to date on what our actual beers go for.
You don't have to be.
But I'm quickly just going to have a look on the old the millbrewery.com.au website.
The millbrewery.com.au.
Beers from us.
We can purchase beers. Is it for pickup or delivery?
Seasonal beer, okay, so the Solana is $8 a can.
For $8 for a Pilsner on the higher side from here.
Ml. That's a hoppy Pilsner too, mind you. So
that's true. So it's expensive. That's not bad. That's not so bad.
Like, we like to keep our stuff affordable as well, man. And I know it's ridiculous because so much of it is excise, and the ingredient cost is such a small factor these days, and everything else that goes with it. You're not making heaps of cash on it.
No, definitely not. And it's funny almost because Canada and America are relatively similar for the prices of obviously if it's like a distro, because there's like this. I feel like the Australian system is kind of better. Here there's like over COVID in Ontario at least, they opened up like say cafes, restaurants, and bars can start to sell the packaged beer to go. So like I just came from before this. One of my favorite breweries had a tap takeover at a cafe that has a wicked beer fridge that has a little bar in the back, kind of what you're just kind of around the size of like a beer mash, like I don't know, 15 seats and like 8 taps is wicked. And the point was, what was I talking about? I'm not even drunk.
Well, is that something that they bought in during COVID?
Thank you. That's what it was.
Kept it around.
Yeah,
they kept it around.
Yeah. So the bar
man,
is.
Great.
I couldn't agree more. And I was in Quebec at the time, and Quebec you could buy beer at the petrol station, at fucking convenience stores, all that stuff every time. Whereas here you couldn't. You still can't get it at convenience stores. You can get it at some grocery stores, but the independent bottle shops. So basically, they're forced to buy it at retail. So if the brewery is selling it for $6.50, then that store has to buy it for $6.50 from the brewery, and then they do a markup. So I'm used to paying a bit of a premium so that I don't either have to pay shipping to buy from the brewery or have to buy in a 4-pack, which is
and convenience too as well, I guess. Like if that place is next door to you and the brewery's far away, it's like, oh cool, man, I can just pop next door, grab something. That's cool.
And they got fire coffee, so I can go in, grab myself the large latte, and then fucking grab, stock up on all the latest beer. And he goes and drives specifically to the beers. So I'm used to things being a little bit more expensive, so it's not so bad. I do like that you are keeping your stuff at that more competitive rate. Now, speaking of that, I'm saying all of this just for people who maybe the Aussies who are listening who weren't familiar with how it works here in comparison. But do you feel that your pricing methods, does that help? Do you think that's helping with the growth? Do you think there's maybe because if people are going into a store and they're like, well, this beer is fucking $22 for a can, whereas like this great West Coast Pilsner is $8, well, I'm going to have a fantastic experience. You know what I'm saying? Like, is that a thing?
I do, yeah. And I think, yes, I agree. I think just being a bit more strategic with our pricing, it just means that we're more accessible to more people, other than just people who, super into craft beer and are happy to pay a premium for whatever. It's just like, it's not like we're skimping on ingredients or anything. Like we're still making the same quality beer with the same awesome ingredients and super expensive hops from the States or New Zealand or whatever it might be. It's like we've got that tap room to fall back on, and it's like if people are coming through the tap room and having a couple of pints, it's great. That's kind of where we can crawl back a bit of that cash, and it's the same with the wholesale market. We're selling kegs and stuff to pubs and bars, and everyone wants a deal. But it's like the puncher at the end of the day, the ones who are sort of paying the premium. Right. Whereas like I love to have our taproom pricing to just be really, really like just affordable. It just keeps people coming back. And I want to have a local. I want our place to be a local where people are coming through and enjoying our happy hour, and they'll stick around.
Yeah,
knowing they'll get a good price, and a good product.
Yeah, and a good vibe. It's such a vibe. The table tennis table. Dude. I love that.
No, that's long gone, man.
That's gone?
No.
It was kind of in the way, but I really liked it.
It took up a lot of space. We couldn't have that in there anymore because we've added heaps more tables. Good. But also that was doing that did my head in, man. I was behind the bar during that period, and it's like just people getting into it, man. They were just going crazy, and I was like, can you just calm down over there, please. Just chill out,
relax. It's a bar.
Like 10 p.m. and I'm so exhausted, and people are just screaming, man. Just like.
All right, guys. It was fun at the time. Fun while it lasted.
It was good, man. It was good.
When you look at, and also probably COVID, you probably couldn't have these shared public bats.
Oh, probably not.
The people.
Everyone had to sit down to do anything back then, man. You had to be seated to drink a beer. It's just like mental.
Yeah. I didn't go out on purpose. I was like, fuck this. I'm gonna order beers and go get the beers, but I'm not gonna drink it. It's like I'm not trying to do all that shit. That's great though, man. I like that a lot because it definitely has, because of like your location and just how it's like cozy, but and you had like I think you had the food truck and stuff out there, yeah. Yeah,
so that's back something that's changed pretty dramatically, man. Like, we had we did rotating food trucks in the early days, and that's a nightmare on its own, man. Just last minute cancellations and all that kind of shit, and just constantly having to find a new person.
Right.
So we managed to get a bit more of a permanent setup with somebody who ran it for a bit of time, and that worked well. And then COVID sort of came along, and what was that, like March 2020?
You know what? It was funny. It was basically, I think it's the 14th here, so it's the 15th there. I think it was Friday the 13th because I did a collab beer with a brewery on that day.
Shit. So it was like 4 years ago.
And 4 years ago, almost to the day, so 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th was the Monday, and I think that's when lockdown started.
Jeez, man. All right, well, we should drink to that, man.
We should, because that was fucked up. Cheers. I can't believe we survived. Cheers, bro. We're going to be telling grandkids about that. Fucking hell.
Yeah, so
what a time.
So obviously that all happened, and I thought, like, all right, we're going to be closed for a certain amount of time, and we had this little front office-y area that I doubt you'd even recognize it. You probably don't remember that it even existed. Because it was just a bit of a dead room. Didn't use it for anything, and so I thought, look, let's put a kitchen in. Because we were closed all this time, I was like, so I ripped out all the office walls and windows, and actually I converted it into a kitchen. So I spent a lot of time there tiling the walls. Yeah, man, I just got back into it.
Good on you.
Which was really like, I would never have done that if if we weren't closed for that time, because having to close the business and get it all done wouldn't have really occurred to me, and I could take my time and sort of do it all my own. So save a bit of money, bit of DIY, and then once we opened back up, I ran it, the kitchen, so we ran it as part of the mill. And of course, finding staff during that period was really difficult. So we had a lot of troubles trying to keep staff in there and having, a good chef in there. And, we sort of landed on pizzas. And again, it nice. Worked, and it was good when it was running. And then we actually ended up sort of running like a pop-up kitchen situation. So we had a couple of businesses come in and run the kitchen for 2 or 3 weeks. And that was cool. And then maybe a year ago, we had a pop-up called Dingo Ate My Taco, and they were absolutely bomb tacos. They're like Tex-Mex kind of style, really, really awesome. Hilarious name as well.
It's
and they've been there ever since, man.
Okay.
So they've been in there for over a year now.
Good for them. And it's like just, a vibe.
We've got a really good, awesome vibe. We all get along. It's basically just like the same sort of business in one, essentially. So it's been really, really awesome to have those guys in there.
That's perfect.
So now you know what you're getting as well. You know what I mean? You rock up to a brewery and you don't know what's going to be there. It's oh, we're just taking a punt. It's like, if you feel like tacos and you feel like a beer, you go to the mill, because that's what we've got. You know what you're getting, and you can snack on them. You don't have to buy a whole bunch of stuff. You don't have to commit to a $30 Palmer.
Yeah.
It's, you're like, hey, I'll get a taco, $7. Oh, maybe I'll get another one,
I like that.
I think it's just a really good combo. I was always a big fan of snacky food, and I didn't want to have a whole big sort of meal, like a pub kind of thing. Pizza was always good. Share a pizza with your mates. But it's been really good, man. That's that kind of last thing that's really sort of kept us going to really elevate the taproom experience in the last sort of 12 months. So
I love that, man. I agree with that. I love, man, nothing beats a taco. And if you got, 7, it's total, I want 1 or I want 4. It's all good. And you keep coming back. And I always find that food trucks are a ripoff, and you don't get, no shade to food trucks, but I always feel you don't always get what you pay for, depending on the business.
Man. And I think here especially, everything's just so fucking hyperinflated here. The pricing is ridiculous. I felt like the few people who were buying shit through the food trucks were just not really happy with what you're getting, bang for buck,
Yeah. Which is, and I hadn't thought about that, but you're so right. It's you don't know what you're gonna get, and if you can have an experience where you do know what you're gonna get, it just makes it yeah, man, I'm gonna go to the mill. I'm gonna have a fucking handful of beers and some tacos. Hell yeah, let's go.
Yeah. And we're trying to offer something that you know what you can get. You know that you're going to get a good beer from us. It's really upsetting when you don't get that same experience from the food offering. It's it's got to go hand in hand. If you're not running the kitchen yourself and it is out of your control, you want to know that it's going to be good quality.
Yeah, it's the food equivalent of flagships, I guess.
That's it, man. Yeah.
So that's interesting. So you, as a drinker, as Mirek, as in not the mill, but have you found that your personal, I don't know, maybe approach to beers have changed as well, as far as, do you and I imagine that probably dictates what the mill is doing, so it kind of maybe is that same question. But have you found that you've you know what, man, I don't really care to worry about this IPA that they've done one time. I would rather this flagship that they've done 100 times and just dialed the fuck in. I know
absolutely.
You know what I mean?
I'm more than anything, these days are about the consistency and knowing what I'm going to get. And I'm drinking more and more other breweries' core range than I ever have previously, as well as our own.
Okay.
Trust me, I drink plenty of our own stuff, and I love it all, and I like to mix it up. Maybe for a few weeks, I'll be really into the Mosaic, but then, we'll have a fresh batch of Daydream come out, which is our other pale ale.
Okay.
And then I'll just be really, really into that for 3 or 4 weeks. But then when I know I'm at a pub that might not have some of our own stuff and I want to drink somebody else's beer, and I see a core pale ale from a brewery that I know, I'm just like so happy because I know exactly what that beer is going to be like.
Gotcha.
And I think that as a whole is kind of like, a lot of drinkers are sort of in that same boat at the moment. They just want really, really good, consistent beer, and it to not cost an arm and a leg.
I totally get it. And do you think that's where things are going moving forward? Like maybe more
at least for this, at least in this point in time, like who knows in another 12 months, man. Like you've seen it all, everything comes full circle. Like we're all back to lagers now and whatever. Like everyone said hazies will never catch on, blah blah blah, and it's like,
and now it's everywhere.
Said that was wrong. Yeah, exactly.
Big
It's
time.
super, super common, man. I don't know if you've been to New Zealand at all, but I've been going back quite recently. My partner's from New Zealand, so we've gone back. We always go back at least once a year, and I tell you what caught on there and went hard. It was hazies. Like holy shit! I always said that New Zealand was like would take a lot from America and American style beers, because they were always into the real big West Coast IPAs. Like over the years, I've seen them now go to hazies, and now it's all you can get. Which is like it's kind of frustrating because sometimes I wanted like a nice American pale ale that's not a hazy,
right?
But everything's a hazy over there.
Interesting.
You'd love it, bro.
Hey, look, I'm like I'm kind of like you. I'm still big on haze for sure. So yes, I do recall even in 2019 because I think I'm still there in 2019 as of the recording date. Like it's still coming up in my daily Facebook memories. Yeah, and I saw that I was drinking some Kiwi stuff and it was fantastic. But just like you, I've definitely like Crispies. Like I won't have a drinking session where I don't start on a Crispy at least. It's and there's like if a place has a Luca pour, like in the Luca tap,
man,
that's the ultimate thing. So like Haze is still king, but like I almost feel if I had to really choose, I'd probably take the Crispy almost over a Hazy these days. Yeah, which is not like it's God tier, but like and I feel like everyone I guess I know, so they're all other beer nerds like yourself, like whether it's owners, brewers, or just drinkers, like we're all kind of in that same vibe. Like I feel like we all went hard. We went, and when we met, and we're all obsessed with Haze for years because in Australia it was new at the time, and even in Canada you couldn't get that much, and it wasn't phenomenal back in 2018. It was cool, it wasn't mind blowing. Some were, but most weren't. And then over the years, it just became like maybe more commonplace everywhere, got good at it. And then it's like, all right, well, I don't have to chase this anymore because I used to have to worry about getting it. And now I can get amazing stuff home. So what else is good? And you kind of like come back to the Crispies and maybe it's like, I always describe it as like that sort of, it's like the full circle. Like you start with like domestic lagers, VB or mostly Canadian here, and you move through the thing like European lagers and ambers and nut browns and porters and stouts, and then the Belgian shit, and then all the trendy haze, smoothies, pastries, and all of that fun stuff, and then you kind of come back to where you started, and now nothing beats a Crispy. Man.
No, and like when I'm back in Tassie, Hobart, the first thing I'm doing is just hoping my dad's got a Cascade lager in the fridge, and I just go back and like just drink a Cascade Blue, and it's just, man, nothing takes me back more. And
That's
it's just
so funny.
So refreshing, and it's just good, man. But I agree, dude. I wonder what's next,
what do you reckon though?
I don't know. I really don't know. I think like everyone's going to get back on the, like this whole lager obsession at the moment will stick around for quite a long time. Like people are really, really, really going hard on, various styles, like certain Pilsners, i.e. the West Coast Pilsner is one, and whatever else might come about. I just think, during that COVID period, people just went so ham and just, were at home just drinking heavy beers. And I think it just
way too hard.
Killed everyone's palate, right?
Do you think that?
Like, what have other people? You would have spoken to more people than me about all this, man. Like, I'm sure everyone's saying the same thing, right? We're all in the same boat.
Absolutely. So I just want to really point out this head, the way that just cascaded into this beautiful head in a 6-year-old beer. So I just want to make sure I give this beer the respect it deserves. This is just glorious. You know what, bro? You're 100%. At the beginning of COVID, everyone had either free money from the government or were working their job but had nowhere to go and nowhere to spend it on. So they're like, beer. And then they drank 4 double IPAs a night. They were loving it. And then they got fat and then they got broke. And then they're like, this is not going to work. So I wonder if that didn't happen, would we be in this crispy renaissance?
Yeah.
I never thought about that till now.
I think we would have got there at some point. You know what I mean? It just might not have happened as quickly as it did.
Quickly. Yeah. That was like inflated sales numbers for breweries, and you know, everyone's like, yo, this is crazy, everything's going amazing, and they're buying canning lines and buying this, and then all of a sudden like shit just like goes, and then like you know,
and now the bottle shops are like, honestly, at the moment, man, like bottle shop sales, you know, from what I'm sort of hearing and seeing, they're down. Like it is it's just not like it was, man, like 2-3 years ago during that period.
Right.
It was hyperinflated sales numbers that are just like, shit, we got to keep riding this thing. It's popping off. Let's focus on our wholesale and do heaps more canning. And then all of a sudden now it's just really dropping off, man. Like, it's dangerous.
So on that note, I'm glad you brought that up. Do you have any thoughts on like the way people are drinking has changed? So like there's a few things that are pretty common, like seltzers. Are they pretty pop? Like the hard seltzers are pretty popular over there?
They have their time, I think, man. Like we jumped on that early as well, and like kind of made one very, very early. And it has, like, we've always had an offering at the tap room, and it's just a good alternative to someone who might have always drank like a cider or something, right? I found a lot of these kind of cider drinkers are now like jumping onto the seltzers. And you know, you might have like a celiac friend, and it's a good gluten-free offering.
Of course.
And we kind of messed around with them for a bit. We ran them as like a canned product, and you know, they were part of our range for quite a while. But we just sort of saw them drop off, and we just kind of like pulled them from our range. But yeah, look, everyone was such a hater about it. I don't know why. It's like the beer people just got real angry about it. Like, get these beers out of here. It's like, bro, just relax, man. You don't have to buy them. Like, who cares?
It's not that
serious. I thought they were awesome, man. Sometimes I like to crush a seltzer. It's like, you know, you just don't want to have a beer that day, and it's basically just like a little flavored water with a bit of booze in it. Like,
right?
I don't know. I kind of like them, but they're not really around anymore. The main people who sort of started producing them and packaging them and getting them into the fridges early are the same ones that are just around today. Like every brewery had an attempt at releasing one and trying to get it into the wholesale market, but they didn't stick. So now there's just like 3 or 4, you know,
that are like
that
own it.
The big ones. That's it.
Are they the big boys like White Claw and stuff?
White Claw came to Australia, I don't know, what, a year ago, 18 months ago, 2 years ago, I don't know. But they are available now. Like they're in the Dan Murphy's and they're in the big stores. So they probably cut out some of that market, but at the same time, like people are still buying like locally made seltzers, but there's probably just 3 or 4 brands that people stick to now.
Interesting. Okay.
Because it's not like craft seltzer. It's not like people aren't that excited about trying a new flavor. It's like if they're going to go and buy a seltzer, they'll just buy the same shit that they know.
Right, because it's not about the experience. It's probably the outcome, right? Yeah,
sure, man.
In Montreal, they were popping, like, because you could drink legally in the parks there if you had some food or whatever. Yeah. And here, I think in Toronto, you could in the end. They brought a pilot program. But anyway, it was like, before we left, you go around in summer in Montreal, like every single group of people had like a 12-pack or whatever of seltzers. Yeah. They're fucking going nuts. And I felt like that definitely made a dent in beer for a bit. Yeah. But let me run this by you. So Chris from Banks said, and this was very interesting to me, and I never heard this before, and I wonder what your thoughts are. He was like, because we're always like, Gen Z aren't drinking, right? They are maybe more health conscious, or they're like not into beer for whatever the fuck reason. So, or not alcohol, maybe, period. Chris said that he's like, think about it like this. In 2020, let's talk Australia. Like every place has, America is 21, Ontario it's 19, Quebec's 18, Australia's 18. So whenever you turn off drinking age, whoever turned off drinking age in arguably 2020, 21, and maybe even part of 22 when things weren't fully open, they weren't inducted into the pub life that we were when we were 18. Yeah. So when I imagine we're probably similar-ish ages, I got more grays than you, but we're probably close-ish. You get it? Well, it's a good look, brother. We out here. The Hey, oh, you have to. I
Right.
thought about dyeing it. I was like, I'm gonna look like a dickhead.
Nah,
I'm
bro.
not gonna. My girlfriend likes it. Tiff likes it, so it's like whatever.
Perfect.
But the fucking, if you think about it, like the first thing, what are you doing on your 18th birthday? You go into a pub. You go into a
Yeah.
club. You're going to drink and dance or listen to music or whatever it is
Yeah.
amongst people, right? That's the culture. That's like essentially British culture that has spawned across the Western world. If you turned 18 in Australia in 2020, you don't have that pub experience unless you had a fakie beforehand and
Yeah.
you got used to it. You turned 18 in June or something, 2020, when everything shut the fuck down. Like, bro, you're not going nowhere. And you are
Yeah.
not brainwashed, arguably, into that pub culture of going out and drinking.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, I never thought of that. Does that resonate at all as far as maybe explaining, like, I guess really sort of, like, does it resonate is probably the first part of the question. And second part is maybe more practical. Like, do you see many 18 to 25-year-olds, hanging out at the brewery? Like, what's the demo looking like?
I'll just crack this haze.
I think you should definitely do that. And let's talk about that for a quick second. We can,
Oh, for sure.
no, please. I want to make sure we give that some time. Look at that beautiful can. My goodness, with the gold.
Yeah, I don't know if you so I guess like the how this particular beer came about. I don't know if you ever got to try our freshest haze. It's a wet hot beer that we've done every year. We would have done it when you were around, but
What was it called?
if you were around in March,
I was.
it might have no, it wouldn't have been around. We usually
No.
released it in around April.
Okay.
So
What
it's
was
a
it
wet
called?
hot beer. So
Just
what was it called?
yeah. I can just look to see if
Freshest
fresh. It's
Haze.
called Freshest Haze.
Yeah, yeah.
I see the 2023 one here. Is that what you got there?
I've got so this particular one, right? So this is haze. So
Oh,
it's
okay.
based off the freshest haze beer that we've done every year, and we only do that beer during like the hop harvest.
I see.
So
Okay,
we
so it's
usually
your wet
make
hop joint.
it
Yeah,
around
yeah.
March every year. We
Gotcha.
release it around April. We do a little sort of mini tap takeover at the mill with all the Victorian breweries that make a fresh hop beer. So
Hell
anyway,
yeah.
basically that's probably one of our like
That's
most
fun.
well known and favorite beers that we've been doing consistently since potentially 2019 was the
There's
first year we did it.
Pineapple Haze was 2019. I see here.
Yeah, and then we did a few sort of like spin-offs of
Freshest
that,
Haze. I
just
see it.
kind of working with the name.
7%.
So that it's the same similar design, and we've ended up just going like, all right, we love that beer so much, but it sucks. We can only do it. Yeah, so that's probably a few years back, maybe
That was
2 years ago.
2019.
Nice.
According
Yeah,
to
so
this?
we've got a more of like a similar design now. So
Gotcha.
basically, we wanted to take that beer and be like, look, we can't always have this year round because it's only brewed once a year.
Mhm.
So we just wanted to create like this particular one, so we've just called it Haze, right? And it's very similar to the freshest Haze,
Mhm.
but we call this one Everyday Haze, right? It's 5.8%.
Gotcha.
It's like right on the cusp of the lowest ABV that we would personally want to call an IPA.
Gotcha.
And it's just a really, really crushable hazy IPA, man. Like it's not over the top. It's not sickly sweet. It's just a really nice hazy beer that you can have a 4-pack of. And we were really conscious of making something that you can actually have a few of these and
That's
not
great.
be super sort of over the top on the ABV. So that's kind of where we're at with this one, man. It's good. We use Galaxy and Citra, and it's just
Money.
it's your everyday haze.
It's
That's
beautiful.
kind of it.
That's a
I think
short. Is
that's
that
what's
that's a 440?
This guy's a 375.
Okay, I was gonna say it looks a little shorter.
Yeah.
Aussie.
Yeah. So this is like
size
probably
is
the first
interesting.
beer we've added to our core range in a long time. So
Gotcha.
yeah,
It's
so now it's available year round.
year round. Galaxy
Yeah.
Citra, great combo. Super murky haze.
No, man, it's
No?
just like a nice, consistent
more
haze.
chill.
Yeah, nothing
Gotcha.
crazy.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So it's that approachable, arguably
Definitely.
gateway haze in the best possible way.
100%.
Yeah.
100%,
hell yeah.
man. Yeah. Yeah, we're
That's
not trying
great.
to like break any records with the haze level. It's just like what it is. It's just a nice, everyone knows what they're going to get. It's the same thing, man. It comes back to that, consistency and repeatability. And like that could be somebody's go-to beer every day. Whereas like generally a hazy might be, a limited one-off crazy big dog that you kind of just want to buy one can and have one and that's it. But this particular one, we wanted people to go, all right, let's have it on tap at a venue and people come and drink a few pints of it.
Gotcha. That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
Love
pretty
that.
happy with it, man. It's good.
It's a beautiful can too, which I imagine is super helpful with
Oh yeah, for sure, dude. Yeah,
drawing the eye, getting people in. That's beautiful. Look at it. I just love the gold, like the gold, and then that whole like wallpaper looking kind of vibe.
it's good, man. The metallic that kind of just pops in the design here is just real nice.
It's perfect. Yeah, I love that. So I'm glad we talked about that. So yeah, man. What do you reckon about the? What was the question I even asked?
No, I know. It's all good. I got
Thank
it.
you. I love it. I got this.
I completely agree. Like I kind of knew you were going that way actually when you started that the question.
Okay.
Like we definitely had this conversation, man. It's like I've definitely talked about it with my mates. It's like it's crazy. There's a whole like generation that just didn't have that ability to sort of go to the pub when they turned 18, like go and catch a live gig and have some beers and be like, oh, finally we can go and have a beer. It's crazy, man. Like, yeah, it just really hasn't been that same sort of thing. But to be honest, our venue's never really been like a spot for like an 18, 19, 20. It's probably more in the low, like young 20s to 40s and 50s, to be honest.
Gotcha.
So I personally haven't really noticed that, but I could only imagine that's definitely what sort of happened. There's like a whole generation that's not really going to get into the beers like we may have when we turned 18. But, having said that, maybe, the generation after them could go back. But then again, man, like, I don't know. It's something to think about. It's not like something that you kind of sit there and get worried about by any means. It's like, oh, shit, are people just like, are we going to have like, no one between the age of like 18 and 25, like not drinking beers?
I mean,
like who knows?
It's hard to tell at this point.
Yeah.
Like from what I've heard from maybe more anecdotal evidence, it seems as if that is the gap that's missing. Like there's, whatever millennials, our whole from the I think the youngest millennial is probably going to be late 20s, like 28, 29 or something, I think. So like born in like 96, 97, and then the old Gen Zs after that. So like even like so Tiff's cousin, he's from England. He works for us and he lives in Toronto and he's 26. I got him into craft beer, so he totally like loves craft beer now, which is awesome. But even then he doesn't drink too much. If he does, it's a little bit. Now I don't know if that's him being a thrifty kid or if that's just him and his people. They just don't really drink too much. Like, it doesn't seem like they're super concerned with getting fucked up. And I feel like back in our day, like, all that mattered was getting fucked up. Like, it was smoking fucking bongs at 15, fucking,
For sure, man. No, I feel you, dude. Trust me, it's the same. But, yeah, I don't know. And I'm not, like, I don't have kids, man. Like, I don't really know what's going on in the youths these days. I don't know, bro. I'm not the right person to ask. I don't know.
So it's not even look. Neither of us clearly. I'm right with you, brother. So I don't know shit. But then, so really, then what that's saying is that if you don't know as a business owner in this industry, therefore it maybe isn't the biggest like priority or concern at the time as far as Gen Z's drinking habits. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any concern maybe then about like, say if there's like a overall, from what I understand, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, there's a bit of a downturn across the board, every country from what it sounds like in beer consumption. Is that fair to say?
I think that's like sort of statistically been proven.
Okay.
That, I think it kind of generally is on a bit of a downturn. Mm-hmm. But I think there's always been that, at the same time, sort of craft beer as I could be getting this completely mixed up, whether or not the craft beer is gaining a bit more percentage, but overall people are drinking less beer.
Okay.
So,
craft beer might gain some market share across the board, but whilst beer is going down. Yeah. Maybe is what you say. Gotcha.
Yeah. And I feel like
that's
that
plausible.
It was definitely the case a little while ago, but maybe that's not even the case at the moment, man. It's just tough. Like, obviously, we're all still against the big dogs. It's just like they're all still taking over and doing whatever they can. I mean, obviously, all the buying up of other brands and stuff has just completely stopped. Like, all those people who started once upon a time, like, oh, let's hope for a buyout, man. Asahi will come along and buy us for sure. It's like,
Dunzo.
bro, you did not start a brewery with that in mind. Like, I really hope not. It's just kind of like
It's pretty wild.
now that those people are just actually like dying off and completely just disappearing. There's just so many brands that have just ceased to exist, and it's it's pretty rough. Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of that, that's a good segue. One of the things that I've seen a bunch happening, and you kind of touched on it earlier, is like the voluntary administration thing that's happening in Australia. A bunch, which is it seems to be a something that's popping up a bunch out there. That's not something that I've seen anywhere else. It's pretty unique. Have you seen across the board like a lot of like? It sounds like there's a bunch of closures, or maybe breweries that have multiple spaces will trim down.
Yep, I think that's the case. I think a lot of these, voluntary administrations have come from just deferred tax bills. That during COVID,
right?
The ATO allowed excise tax to be deferred, and all of a sudden everyone's gone, oh shit, now it's due, and they owe the ATO $1 million+ bucks. And it seems like a pretty crazy time, and I feel for a lot of them for sure. I think it's a brutal thing, and I think a lot of people are going to lose their jobs during this process. Just workers who get caught up amongst it all. But I can't speak on it, man. I truly haven't had any conversations with actual owners about this. I've only seen the headlines and the stories, and I've only seen people talk shit about it on Facebook who have no fucking clue what they're talking about. Right. So at the end of the day, it's like I could say anything about it, but I kind of just don't want to. I don't know. I don't know what these people are going through, and I wouldn't want someone sort of making all these assumptions about my business if I was in that situation. It's pretty nuts, It's like just people just talking such shit online about it, and they just don't know what happens behind the scenes.
Sounds pretty powerful, of course. With
for sure, man. I mean, you're a small business owner, so
you see them.
It's tough,
yeah. I think it's a tough time across the board. Obviously, particularly in anything that's brick and mortar. I would say, like lots of hospitality. Sure. People probably have less. Tell me if it's the same. I guess people have less disposable income, and therefore are choosing to not go out. Maybe they'll still buy beer to go, like cans or whatever, and take them home, which is good. But
I think it's the opposite, man. Like just on that last point, like I think there's more people are still going out because there was that period where no one went out and everyone missed going to the pub, and people still like to go to the pub for sure. But I just reckon there's less drinking at home, and I'm just kind of like, I'm not making that assumption on
no,
nothing.
This is good. Okay, explain.
Not selling as many takeaways as we once were. But we're getting people through the tap room because people like to catch up with their friends and maybe not have a huge session and be out all night and spend heaps of money, but people like to still go out for dinner and have a couple of beers, and then maybe they'll be a little bit more sensible and just a little bit smarter with their money. I think that's kind of what we're seeing, and I'm the same personally. If I'm going to go out and have a beer and a feed, like I'm not doing it as often as I was. Like I'd be going to the local every week for a nice Palmer and a pint, but it's just like not anymore, dude.
Fuck, I miss a good Palmer.
Can I get a Palmer over there?
Never seen one. Palmer and hot chips. Fuck, dude. Oh, I talked to my brother about this a bunch. You used to get like a Palmer and a pop for like $12 back in the day. Like
pre-2010. Man. That's like a business idea over there, man. Should we start something over there?
I think we could, brother. There's there's this bloke over here who started a cafe in Toronto called Found, and I think he's from Melbourne. He could be from Sydney. I don't know. But it's beautiful and it's great. And it's the only place that sells Vegemite around here, so I get my Vegemite from there. And he's got great. 2 in Toronto and 1 in this town called Guelph. That's actually about an hour away from here. Guelph, So I went up to Guelph a couple times, and they even do. You're a big coffee dude too, right? You're into coffee.
Only recently, man. Like probably not when we were chatting last. I actually was like a real late bloomer as far as coffee is concerned. Funnily enough.
Do you know what? It's better late than that. To be honest, I drank coffee. Melbourne invented third wave coffee. So put it that way. I born and raised in Melbourne, and I discovered it in Canada. So trust me, I'm like a decade or so in. I'm not far, but this my cousin Dan, who you know, he's like, he gives like presentations on coffee. So he's taken me to all the spots in Melbourne, like Patricia, which is my favorite ever, and like that a whole bunch of different places. And they have this thing in Melbourne that's the sickest shit ever. They call it a magic or a 3/4. Are you familiar?
No.
Oh,
I just drink iced coffees, bro. I don't like hot coffee.
You don't like hot coffee? Okay. Well, it's just
I'm
like
not a real coffee guy, right?
okay, it's man, it's so good. Honestly, being a beer guy to the level that you are, I feel like I can see you really appreciating it. But they
True. I'll have to try it, man. I'll try it.
So you can either ask for a magic or a 3/4, and it's kind of like a flat white or like a cortado-ish. I don't know the specifics of it because I'm gonna fuck it up. But my girlfriend went in. We always like, I'll stay in a car with the dog because we bring him everywhere, and I was like, all right, get me my usual. And then when she went to this Found Cafe in Guelph, the chick was like, oh, the flat whites for you? Yeah. Can I make you something different? And she's like, oh, what is it? And she started describing it, and because Tiff had it in Melbourne, she's like, is that a magic? And the chick's like, yes. And we're like, are you fucking serious? Somebody in Canada knows what that is, because that was her favorite thing that my cousin introduced her to in Australia. So, like, it's very cool. Like, the coffee thing is phenomenal. So what I'm trying to say is that I feel like there's it's exotic to have like a Palmer. Like, people don't even know Palmer chips in a pot or whatever. No one knows what the fuck a pot is here because there's pints only, really. Yeah. So I think it could work. Is really my long way of saying let's fucking go. Yeah. Let's fucking go.
Sweet, man. Yeah, I just feel for you, man. That you just can't go and get one. It's like, damn. But then again, you go and get some probably real good poutine. Surely.
Not in Ontario as much. In Quebec, yeah.
Not so much, yeah.
Because it's from there.
Like Montreal, right?
Yeah, it's a Quebec thing. But here, what's Ontario good with? I don't even know. I feel like they just kind of got street a bit. The street meat in Toronto is fucking great. Oh, yeah, this shit is killer.
Street meat, I love it.
Oh man, it's street pause. Yeah, good street meat out here. I try and get in Montreal. I used to live behind this place called TA. It was like Tortilla Australian pies, like tar, tar. Thank you pies, and it was like Aussie, Kiwi, and British stuff. So they had, it might not seem like much, but think about in a Aussie desert, and particularly in Montreal, there's barely any Australians. They had obviously Vegemite, but they had like flake, Monte Carlo, barbecue shapes, all the different Cadbury bars. They had fucking ice Vovos, like all that. So I used to go there. It was right next to my house. I was paying like $8 Canadian for a box of barbecue shapes, and it's the same for Monte Carlos and stuff. Worth every penny. And now I can't get anything. I have to go to Guelph to get, I think it's like $11 or $12 for the tiny little Vegemite jars. It's very expensive. So it's but you kind of
man, for nostalgia.
And look, I try to represent for back home. I got the LVB Dunlops right here. You know what I mean? Got them bad boys. Got the match, and I got the Vegemite. They're a little out of reach. I got the Vegemite ones right next to them, all black.
I forgot they released that shoe.
They're so ugly, but I was like, when I got them, I got the matching socks, and I sent them to Mum, and I spent an exorbitant amount of money to get them sent over here along with my diplomas. I wanted to put my diplomas on the wall, but they look sick. So I obviously detest Victoria Bitter, but it's a nice little memory of home.
Yeah, so for sure, man. That makes sense. I can't imagine you wearing one of those like real skinny shoes though.
Oh, I don't wear them, and that's why they're so pristine.
Like a volley like that, just real skinny. It's I don't know, man.
I only wear Yeezys. That's all I wear. That's what all those shoes are. And I tried them on. They're too ugly for me. But I got these nice little shoe things, and I got them up there, pride of place, just because I got you want a little like something of home to try and remember. But yes, I wonder if there must be some places that do a Palmer. There has to be. I think there's an Aussie restaurant in Toronto.
Got a different name over there, man. I'm sure.
Maybe they call them something else. I know. I saw recently there's an Aussie restaurant in Toronto. That I gotta check out. Sorry, we're fucking digressing so much. I wanted to ask you as well. One of the
Vegemite farmers.
I know, right? People are just like, guys, shut the fuck up. One thing that I remember from talking to you and just Aussie breweries was how easy access all the Aussie breweries had to things like Galaxy hops and like all the different Aussie hops that obviously at one point were like all like the whole world was losing their minds over. And
Yeah.
it seems like this day and age, New Zealand hops are basically running shit. What's the vibes over there? You did mention, I think you touched on it before, but yeah, like what's the sort of what's hot? What are everybody using right now? Like, is it the same?
Kiwi hops, man.
It's Kiwi hops. Is it like freestyle?
Kiwi hops are really, really popping, man. And like, funnily enough, because I say that, we've got two absolute bangers coming up in late April, which I'm just so pumped for, man. Like, so we're doing two IPAs. One's a red, and one's a bit more of a hazy, juicy style. But they're both just like loaded to the gills with Kiwi hops.
Yes.
And there's this product from Freestyle Hops, which is a hop farm in New Zealand. It's like top of the North Island, like in the Motueka kind of area. And
Motueka's an area.
Yeah, so it's actually like I was actually down there last month, and me and my partner went back to New Zealand. We went to Wellington, and we flew to Nelson.
Oh, I can't believe it's
and we just went through the town. So there's actually a town called Nelson, and then a town called Motueka.
It's not Nelson Sylvan is the town, is it?
No.
Yo, there's a town called Ruwaka.
Yeah, town called Ruwaka. Yep.
Fuck off, bro. Yeah. Mutera as well.
Where all those hops come from, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, Moteka Valley. Yeah, sorry, this is like blowing my fucking mind.
Yeah.
Yo. Okay. And okay.
Google Maps right now.
I just googled the word, googled Moteka or Motueka, whatever, and then it came up, and I'm just searching. I'm just moving around Google Maps. And
yeah, it's crazy, man. It's an incredibly beautiful area, dude. Like,
is it kind of like a Yakima?
And there's a hop farm called Freestyle Hops, and
I know Freestyle Hops. That's massive over here.
So they're putting out some banging products, man. There's this product called Sub-Zero Hop Keef, and it's basically just like a concentrated liquid. It looks like water, and it comes in this little 250 ml jar. And we used it in a beer that we made in November last year. And it was just so awesome. It was such a unique sort of flavor profile and aroma. It just was absolutely nuts. So these two new IPAs we got coming out, we're basically using Sub-Zero Hop Keef for both. I think one's using Rewaka Hop Keef, the other one's using Nelson Hop Keef, and just a big mishmash of New Zealand hops. So we're really, like, honestly, man, I'm really pumped for these two beers.
Oh, that's so fun.
So yeah, they'll be out late April. So
okay, we should talk about that. Yeah. Okay. So that's what's popping over here. Okay. I just want to double check because that is what's popping here too. And cool. I remember it's just all the Aussie, like I say, all the Aussie breweries just being like very flippant about the just sheer volume of like the Aussie hops that were so expensive and hard to get out here, and everyone's like, I got Galaxy and this is easy, blah blah blah. So I was just
Galaxy, whatever, man, cheap, bro, it's cheap.
It's nothing.
It's like, I don't understand you guys, over there in North America, it's like you're paying crazy money for it.
Yeah, and I feel like it's fallen out of favor a bit for the New Zealand hops, and I was curious. I was just curious if I guess the it did the same thing, but it sounds like it has definitely crossed over. It's the same sort of trend as far as like everyone's, because these New Zealand hops have this beautiful like profiles that are super unique.
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
comparison.
But the funny thing is, man, like a lot of these aren't new. They're just not new varieties at all. They've actually been around for a long time. And we've always used Motueka as our bittering hop, actually, because it's, for that bittering hop, you're not chasing, too many different kind of, you don't want so much out of it, but it's actually a relatively inexpensive hop. So that's kind of what we use.
Right.
But I'm just trying to think too. Yeah, there's generally like an oversupply of, I think, at least Australian hops at the moment. So that's, partly because I think people jumped on it so heavily, a few years back. Like you were saying, in North America, it was really, really popular. Galaxy, everyone wanted it.
Right.
But now all of a sudden, at the moment, there's actually like an oversupply of hops. So,
gotcha. So now it's like
maybe a few years ago, I would have like jumped on some hop contracts, but we've kind of just been a bit smarter moving forward and being like, well, let's not be too hasty. I think there's actually going to be quite a lot of hops floating around for the next, 18 months.
For the next little bit. I'm still tripping balls. I'm finding like Raquel YT on the map. I'm like, this is so wild, bro. I don't know why. I just thought they were just cool Maori words as opposed to. And it looks like it like borders on the Marlborough, which is the wine region, no?
Yeah, bro. Yeah. So when I was there, we were there like a month ago. I was smack
Okay,
bang in that whole area.
let's
And we,
go.
yeah, went to like the sort of Marlborough Sounds area, went to some awesome
Beautiful.
wineries, and then kind of
Yeah.
just drove east and went all through the hop regions.
Okay.
It was incredible, man. Like, dude, I mean, I guess because I'm from Tassie and my partner's from New Zealand. Like,
So you're
New
big
Zealand's
on it.
incredible. It's
Yeah.
such a spot, man. Like, I feel so just at peace when I'm there, man. It's like my true getaway spot. It's really nice.
Okay. Man,
Yeah.
that's where all the billionaires are building their bunkers for the end of the world. So
I think that's true. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's
look,
probably right.
I've heard for sure that, oh, it's at the top of the South Island. Okay, I see.
Yeah. Oh, did I say
Um,
north? Did I fuck it up earlier? I meant top of the South Island.
no, that's okay. Yeah, I wasn't even. I just searched for freestyle hops and started cruising
Mhm.
around the area. I've only been to
Yeah.
Auckland for like 3 days, and I loved
Yeah.
Auckland. It actually felt a lot like America. They had a whole bunch of stuff that Australia didn't have, like Wendy's and all this stuff.
Okay.
I remember
Yeah, that probably sounds about right. Yeah.
it
Wellington is
was.
more like Melbourne. Wellington is a mixture of like Hobart and Melbourne. It's not as
Oh,
big as Melbourne,
well, there she is. Okay,
um,
Wellington.
but just so hilly and amazing. It's good, man.
Beautiful, man. So many sheep, eh? Oh, cheers, bro. Oh, no. I love
Heaps
it.
of shit. But I
So
think it's more in
sheepy.
Australia, actually. I don't know where that even
Does that?
came about.
Yeah, I know. I feel like it's the ridiculous thing. Okay, sorry. I know we're getting distracted. I feel like we're getting lots of distractions tonight. It's these 10% stout, brother. Um,
I know, man.
so uh d- like being that Kiwi hops is having you've been using them forever. Like, is Aussie hops like fallen? Like, are they like? Is it like whatever now out there
No. I
or
wouldn't say that, man.
no?
No,
Okay, cool.
because the good thing is like they're actually like creating new varieties all the time. Like HPA, they have new hops that have been in the research phase and experimental phase for such a long time. I think like Eclipse is one that's recently
Yep.
come out. Maybe only Eclipse could be a different name.
No,
Sorry,
Eclipse is one.
but
Yeah, for sure.
yeah. So, but it might be a different one that I'm thinking about. But that
Oh,
just
I
came
see.
out last year, and people gone crazy about it. It's like there are actually plenty of new Australian hops, and they're all kind of chasing that tropical vibe because that's kind of what people are still wanting. Like we just haven't really had that much time to experiment, and our head brewer as well is also from New Zealand, so hence all these Kiwi hops coming into
Gotcha.
play at the moment. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't say like the Australian sort of hop scene's dying off in any way at all. I think there's plenty to choose from, and people here are really experimenting with them and having a good time. But maybe they just won't blow up like Galaxy did around that time.
It was
But
pretty
maybe they
special.
will. Maybe in a year or
Yeah.
so. Like who knows, man? But
Yeah, I feel like I always try it. 'Cause I did a collab last year, and I think what did we use? Galaxy Vic Secret and Eclipse.
oh, nice
Um,
one.
and the first time we used Galaxy Vic Secret and Ella, and we switched it out.
Yeah,
Um, and I just find that like most breweries, I feel like this came out great because obviously using Aussie hops, if I'm going to do a collab, makes sense, right? Trying to always
for sure.
bring a little something unique like that, but
Yeah.
it's like the New Zealand hops are just shitting on them right now. I feel like as a
Mm.
whole, at the very least, now it sounds like maybe they aren't as much, but maybe just Australia had its like everything was about Aussie hops for a bunch of years, and it
Yeah.
was super
Yeah.
like important to get, hard to, like you said, hard to get, expensive, over contracted, whatever. And then now it's kind of like I don't know what happened. It just kind of like had its run, and then the Kiwi hops picked up. So I wonder if
Yeah.
it would be nice if they had, if Aussie hops did come back
Yeah.
into
Yeah, they
fashion. I
might.
feel like,
I'm sure they're probably hoping that they do. All the
yeah,
producers of the Australian
I
hops. I'm
bet.
sure they're
Yeah,
very much hoping that they come back.
yeah.
But it's it's like the full circle of coming back to lagers and crispy
Great point.
boys. Like it'll return. I'm sure it's the same kind of thing. People just want the next thing all the time.
Mm,
It's
that's
hard to
such a
keep
good
up.
point. Yeah, man, that's such a good
Yeah.
point. One of my favorite breweries out here, he was telling me he hated Galaxy for quite a while, but in the last maybe 6 months or even less, he said the latest batches he's been loving it. He's been putting Galaxy in like every other beer,
Ah,
like or
yeah.
Haze.
Okay.
And he's like he's loving it, but it was
Yeah.
a bunch of years that, and they're the type they go to Yakima every year to do the the
Yeah.
rubbing
Awesome.
and the
Yeah.
selecting and
Yeah.
all that type of stuff. So they're very particular about because they're IPA focused brewery. Him and his
Yeah.
a few other friends in that. But so I was very happy to hear that Galaxy was coming back, and I felt like all the beers that I had that had Galaxy. I don't think he did a single hop Galaxy, but it was like supported maybe by one other hop, maybe two, but it was great to see it back again, because usually Galaxy ended up just being like, for a while, it was that little overpowering and really like chalk, like I was gonna say chalky, like that hop burny. It was just like it took over the beer. If you had Galaxy even just a little bit, it would take over even the smaller percentage hops. So it sounds like positive. Sounds like it's coming back, which is nice.
Yeah, I think so, man. Yeah, they're always working on new stuff,
Which is very cool. The anniversary we haven't touched on yet. So, by the way, this will come out in probably like 4 weeks. So, being it's mid-March, so like mid-April, and the anniversary is on Saturday, 1 week away. So, you can definitely do any spoilers because it won't come out before then.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, right. Okay, no worries. Because I think next weekend is obviously the birthday. So, 7th birthday, man. Yeah, we've got I don't know if you're familiar with our black IPA that we've been doing for a long time. It's called the Dark Lord, right? So we're doing like a cold black IPA. So it's just basically like a lagered version of the same thing, like fermented with lager yeast, but it's just a nice hoppy dark lager essentially. So
okay. Funnily enough, it was 16th of March 2019, which must have mean it was almost a year to the day that we hung out in 2019. Look at that.
Yep. Holy shit.
That's crazy.
So that's our own anniversary to
look at that. Isn't that cute?
Celebrate.
Stop, Merrick. Stop, bro. Okay, that's a sexy ass can too. With the it definitely was not in a can at the time. The can looks wicked. Sorry,
no, definitely not. But it's come about to the cans now, which is cool. But yeah, I think this new one we're releasing next Saturday, man. It's just it's
great.
It's so pumpy,
killer,
man. Like
a black
really
cold IPA. Never heard of anything like that. That's fantastic. What a cool idea.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Wicked, dude. So that's do you like? Is it one beer for the anniversary? Is it multiple?
Just the one, man. Yeah, we've done like over the years. We've done like double release, but at the moment we're just kind of doing that one. But it should be good, man. Got a couple of bands playing, and
that's great, dude. I love that.
Yeah.
Is that a thing over there to do like sometimes breweries here do like 12 beers for an anniversary?
Yeah, that's nuts, man. It's so hard to manage that.
I don't know why they do it. Yeah, so is that not a thing, really? People don't do that?
Some people do.
But not super common.
Dude, can I just jump? I hope you can pause this.
I can pause. I'll pause right now. We're going to pause. Boom, bladders are empty, mate. Look at that. Magic across the world. Empty bladders.
Perfect. I wouldn't have felt right telling you about the birthday if I hadn't had that little toilet break. So appreciate it. When you're cracking beers and having a long chat, catching up after years,
literally. And do you know what? I was just saying off air, like I forgot to tell you, but also I think for me, because I'm drinking the one beer very slowly. Normally in a pod at 2 hours in, I'd be like 3-4 beers deep, and I would be gagging for a slash.
Yeah, for sure, man.
So I think that's also why. So apologies, but we got it done.
Cool, man.
We're talking about the birthday. Yeah, very cool that you're doing that. So there's a big bands playing at the brewery. People come through. Imagine tacos on deck.
Yeah, they'll have a nice special menu, man. They always put on something crazy. I think previously they've done like a big pig on a spit, and I think this year they're trying to do like some like al pastor style kind of thing. It's going to be really, really awesome.
That's fun.
And and usually with the whole band situation as well at our venue, we don't we kind of save that for special occasions. It's not something that we like. We don't normally do live music at all, but just for special occasions we crank it out. And got a couple of cool mates playing some bands, playing some stuff, and yeah, man, it's going to be a vibe. I think we're just going to have to keep ourselves under control, because it's hard. It's like when you're there and it's a birthday, and all your pals are there, and it's just awesome, man. Everyone's there to celebrate, and man, it's been 7 years. It's crazy to think about, really.
Yeah, I was going to say. Oh man, you've and you opened 2017, so you probably had about 3 years ish, give or take, before shit got wild. And then you survived, which is a really huge accomplishment that you should be proud of, that you survived through all of that stuff. Man, for sure. How different is everything in the last, from then till now?
Oh, crazy, man. The fact that you just said that. So the fact that you said we had 3 years before COVID, that's fucking nuts to me. That's fucking crazy. I would have thought that was so much longer, that time,
right?
And now we're at 7. It's like that progression that we've sort of been through in the last 3 years compared to the first three is crazy. It's just like where we're at now. It's like it just kind of feels a bit more real. Feels like we're I don't know, a respectable,
like a maturity.
Yeah, mature, respectable sort of brewery these days. Where back in the day, it was just a bit of fun. It was sort of me just doing the thing, my dream, the thing that I've always wanted to do. But then sort of after this amount of time, it's like I don't want to do anything else. Like this is obviously what I wanted to do. And I feel like people probably lose a bit of that passion along the way at some point, which can really affect, just how sometimes you got to work fucking hard. And, maybe at some point along the way, people just get a bit burnt out. And that's obviously a thing too. I think that's come up quite a bit in the past sort of 18 months. It's just kind of like burnout and stuff like that. People just after COVID recovering, just, you know what I mean? It's just, man, it's been crazy, but it's all good.
Yeah. Look, man, I think you should be super proud. 7 years in beer, I think first and foremost is just amazing. It's a very tough industry. There's a lot of overhead.
I feel like I've aged more than 7 years.
Well, you don't look it, brother. You got no grace to speak of. You're looking younger than ever. It's but I know what you mean, man. When you're saying the maturity from then, I guess that means we met when you were like a year in and 2 years in.
That's crazy.
I don't know why I didn't really think of it. Doesn't feel like that. You didn't feel like young and sort of like at the time. You know what I mean? Like it felt like, I did. You know what you're doing. This place is popping. It was a vibe every time. The beer's fantastic, and it was definitely a hot local spot that multiple people had even told me about after the fact, independently of knowing that I knew you. And then you got through arguably the hardest time in our lifetimes. Yeah, unprecedented. Unpredictable. You made it, and then now you've not only made it, but you are growing. New facility, thriving. You should be fucking proud, brother. It's very cool.
No, trust me, I am. And I think just everyone who's involved at the moment is just like, it's just the best team. It's just like it's working so well, and it's a testament to everyone involved, So appreciate it, man.
Hey, man, look, it's fucking cool, and I guess it's extra cool that we're drinking, like, well, at least I'm drinking this, older beer from an earlier time, a different time. Even cooler that you were making barrel aged beer back then too. In year 2,
it was just more a bit of fun back then. It's like, let's just fuck around and see what we can do. Like there just wasn't that whole danger
stress or pressure,
doing something stupid and stressful and making a mistake and being like, yo, that just cost you your business. Are you crazy? Like, what are you doing? It's like, hey man, let's just try and make a wacky beer. Where of course now these days you got to be a little bit more smarter about what we're doing, and there's so much more planning involved these days, and I mean that from a good way. Right. I don't just wake up one morning and go, let's make this crazy beer tomorrow. It's like, nah, it's not really. It doesn't work like that.
Doesn't work like that.
But that's the best.
Right. No, definitely sounds like it. Now, is that because of like your age and sort of tenure? Is it the industry itself? Is it like just you? Like, what's the reason that it's gone that way?
I think just to make sure that we have sales guys now who want to be able to sell the beer, and at the end of the day, it's like we have customers who are purchasing that beer from a bottle shop or from us directly. We need to just be a bit smarter about what it is that we're making. Like if we're making 600 liters of something that would go on tap at the tap room only, and we don't have to be so worried about what it might be, because it's like it'll tick along, it'll sell. It's like you get 10 kegs, out of something like that. It's very easy to move. But now we're talking about like, what are you going to do with, 40 kegs and 100 cases? It's like, all right, if you make something that's really wacky and out there and you can't move it, then you get stuck with it. So that's the kind of sense, and that's the angle that I'm talking about when I say like, we got to just be a bit smarter about what we release. We're going to make sure that people are going to want to drink it.
Right. That makes sense. And you're talking about the mature, like, I feel like I know exactly what you're talking about when you're saying like the maturity of the brewery, and like back then I feel like you always had like cool branding, but like what I could literally the one packaged beer that I could recall, which is the juice, which looked like the can't believe it's not butter thing, which was super fun. Like a really like it was a great. Once again, it'd be so interesting to taste that beer fresh now. Fuck, that would be fun. But like,
oh, it'd be crazy, man. We look, to be honest, we did brew it a couple more times. Like, I think we might have, maybe even like 2 years ago or something. We did a batch just for fun.
Hell yeah!
And it just, man, it was not the same. It truly was not the same. I was very surprised. I was like, oh wow, this is not what I remember it being like.
Why?
Could have been. I mean, we tried to create it with the same ingredients, but the hops changing every year, and it's just process changes throughout that time. It just wasn't ever going to be the same thing. And your palate changing. You're like, okay, all right, let's just stick to the stuff that we've been doing recently.
Definitely. No, I see what you mean. So they went from that to this, like, the thing that sticks in my mind when I think of the mill now is that Mosaic Pale Ale branding, that kind of white can with the burgundy and the cool logo that's kind of like throwback-ish, but also, like you said, a little like punk metal goth, whatever it is, like some sort of thing. I'm like, yeah, it feels like a brand that's not fucking around, that's taking their art seriously, that's making a solid it just feels like it's something that, like, you see that problem, I could buy a 6-pack of that, and I'm gonna buy a 6-pack next week, and it's gonna be just as good, and I could buy a 6-pack in 6 months, and it's gonna be just as good. Like, it feels like it's a brand that takes itself seriously, but not in like a wanky way, but just like, this is a business, and we're here for you, consumer. Like, I guess what I'm trying to say is that I can understand exactly what you mean, seeing that back then, which is so young and innocent and naive in the best possible way, and just having fun.
A bit of fun.
Yeah, and then to this thing where now you're distroing and you got the second facility. I don't know, man. I'm proud, man. I think it's really cool to see you do the, to grow and to grow the brand and to get these whole new consumers outside of Collingwood that are just like into what you're doing.
You've seen it firsthand, essentially. It's like
it's pretty cool, early on.
And that's not to say that like it's not fun now. Like, it certainly is, but
just different.
But obviously back then it was me and a couple of mates,
right?
And it was just actually just fucking around, and we just weren't too stressed about what we were doing. But it was obviously there was a point where it's like, hey man, like, whoa, like COVID happened. It's like, oh shit, we want to keep this thing going.
Yeah. And
then after that, it sort of just turned into like didn't turn into a very serious thing. That was always the plan. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's just it's how it goes.
Yeah. It's here we are. I mean, it's like, it's very cool though. Like, it must sort of trip you out a little bit to sort of see where it's all come from and where it's all going, and look at the
when
industry.
You say things like that, man. 3 years, we were 1 year old, like blah blah blah. Like, holy shit, that trips me out. And it's going to trip me out on the weekend when it's our birthday. Like, I'll probably just be, like, oh, guys, I got to go.
But you should, though. And this is what I think is, like, I don't know, what other businesses, like, well, not really what other, because I guess a lot. But, like, our business doesn't celebrate a particular day. Like, a brewery or, sometimes restaurant. But I feel like brewery celebrations are like a really special thing, like brewery anniversaries, whether there's 12 beers, 1 beer, just an event, it doesn't matter, but it's like this cool, I don't know, it's something about it that's like, it's almost like, yeah man, we made it. Like, no,
it is like that. It's,
you know what I mean?
And I feel like probably because a lot of them when they started might have been in my kind of similar vein, such as
having a good time.
Oh, I want to start this brewery, man, that'll be fun, and we'll have a bar, and that's kind of it. So I think once you do get, older and more mature, and the business really becomes more of a mature business, when you get to 7 and 8 and 9, like, it's a big milestone. It's like, fuck yeah, like this is so good. Yeah. So I think that's why, and it is like the physical, like, opening of your venue, on this day, and it's like, shit, yeah, that's something to celebrate, each year.
It really is. It's It's a beautiful thing, man. So then looking forward, where do you want to take this thing? Like, do you have any plans? I mean, obviously it's only March 2024 we're doing this. Like, is there anything this year that you can speak to, or maybe goals and aspirations for the future, even past this year?
Nothing crazy, man. But like, just stay on this same path and this same trajectory, and just keep that steady growth, and just keep making, consistent, good quality beers. I think like we've got some sort of minor equipment sort of upgrades and stuff in the works for this year. But at the same time, like we just don't want to get too silly. Like we're sort of just keeping up at the moment, but we're sort of pushing our facility to to the limits sort of now. So we do need, we might need a couple more tanks at some point, and maybe think about doing some of our own canning, because right now we just use like a mobile canning guys come through. But
right,
yeah, man, like just we've got some awesome beers coming up. Like we've got quite a few, honestly, and I think we're more like we've planned more for this year coming up than like we ever have. Like we probably wouldn't plan ahead more than a couple of months, like as of 2023. But this year it's like we've got the next sort of 6 months planned out.
That's dope.
Which is
like,
pretty cool. Yeah.
Do you have collabs or anything?
Yeah, we've got a few collabs, man. Like, yeah, a couple in the works. Like, I can't talk on too many of them.
That's completely fine.
But more of our favorite collabs are actually just kind of like local bars and stuff that we like, that we sell beer to and we hang out at. So that's kind of what we're doing the most of at the moment, man. Just local bar collabs. They're always fun.
That's great.
Look at that, bro. Last one.
Look at that. Did it. Still on me feet. Beautiful.
Well, you're sitting on a chair, but yeah.
Sitting on, well, we'll see what happens when I stand up again. That's fun, man. I know you've done, just to point out, this is the old logo is super cool. This is really what I think about.
Yeah, there it is, man. That's OG. That's literally the first logo. We did one other logo change after that.
Beautiful.
Before this current one, but yeah, holy shit.
I love this. Is going on the beer shelf for sure. Need to keep
nice,
to represent that.
Yeah, I love it.
Bro, this has been really fun, man. Thank you so much for hanging out and for handing me this all those years ago, and for now some sort of virtually sharing it. I couldn't have thought of a better way to... Like, I almost drank this a number of times, and then I think that when the other Aussie ones were coming about, I was like, oh, this is... I don't know why. I think I just looked at it one day. I was like, I'm fucking hitting Mirek up, and let's just do this.
Yeah.
So thank you for being down.
Did, man.
Yeah, man. Just like it's been really cool watching. Like I do pay attention. I'm keeping an eye on everything you're doing, man. And I just feel like proud of the Aussie scene. I don't know why, even though I got into beer over here and I hadn't spent as much time back home as I maybe would have liked since I've been here. But it's so sick to see you just grow and thrive and to just continue to make killer stuff and have, when other people are telling me, like my boy Tim, shouts to Tim, he's, send me the picture the other day. I think he had the Mosaic Pale Ale. I was like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, nice, I was like, and he's like, I'm fucking meeting Mirek next week, bro. And he's like, oh, hell yeah. And he sent me like a screenshot on your street the other day because he's into coffee as well. So he was showing me he was in the hood. So it makes me happy just to see like that people I know are going there that are telling me about it and just seeing you kill it, man. And so you should be super proud, brother. Congrats on 7 years.
There's one thing, bro, that I wish I could have. Like, I wish I could get you some of our like current stuff. You know what I mean? It's like, that's real cool that you're drinking the Great Russian right now. Like, I'm stoked that it's tasting good, man. But I'll have to try and like get some beer your way.
You know what? I'll talk to you off air. There might be a way. I got some people coming over soon that would come by, and they're good people.
Fuck yeah.
So let's wrap this up, and we can wrap up off air as well. So stick around, don't jump off. But where can everyone find the mill online and in person?
So you can buy our beers from our website, themillbrewery.com.au.
Beautiful.
And Instagram and Facebook at the Mill Brew.
Love it. Yeah. And then this will come out after the anniversary. Oh, hang on. My battery died right at the end, which is very funny, but it's okay.
Oh, how's that timing?
I know, right? God damn. I was hoping it would do it when we took a piss, but it's it often does. So hang on, we're back in business. Look at that. Nice and quick. Hey. It's like a pit stop. Fucking Lewis Hamilton, mate. The
Easy.
Or Craig Lowndes. How's that for a throwback? The V8 the V8 mum and dad are into the V8 touring car things like Peter Brock and shit. Do you remember that shit?
Yeah, I do.
I don't know why. It's sometimes a funny obscure Aussie references. Kill it, love it.
For sure.
Yeah, dude, thank you so much again. This has been awesome. I really appreciate it. Once again, congrats. 7 years. Fucking huge. Guys, thank you so much for watching and listening. If you enjoyed the episode, smash the thumbs up, hit subscribe below, hit that notification bell so you know when the new drops. Follow us everywhere at BAOS Podcast and check out the long form audio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere. You're going to hear legends like Mirek talk about craft beer in Australia and beyond. Guys, we'll see you in the next episode. Cheers, brother. Peace, peace.